So there I was, blinking awake like a confused goldfish, and the first thing I noticed? This was not my crappy little apartment. The air smelled like old leather and expensive wood. Rich people smell, basically. 16 years ago, some sketchy fortune teller told me to go outside on a specific day, and I'd hit the jackpot. Like an idiot, I believed him. I did hit something all right, because next thing I know, I woke up as a baby in a whole different world. Lucky me, right? I'm now Ron Windsor, fifth son of the Snow Wolf Earl family. Sounds cool, right? Wrong. Being the fifth son in this family is like being the backup dancer behind four Beyoncés. My ranking in this household is barely above the old dog that hogs the sunny spot in the courtyard. Let me break down my family real quick. Mom's from some big-shot magic clan. Her dad is literally the Grand Duke of the entire Northern Territory. Dad's a powerful earl whose family name makes even higher-ranked nobles smile nervously. Big bro Carlos. Already the air, built like a weapon, radiates. I own this place, energy. Second and third brothers got their own lands and titles. Fourth bro Leon, off studying at some elite magic academy like a fantasy world Hogwarts kid. And me? Oh, little Ron. Everyone's like, what's the fifth kid up to? Counting flowers in the garden again. I trained hard since I was little, but my body just refused to cooperate. Talent? Zero. Dad started looking at me the way a boss looks at the intern who broke the printer. Disappointed, but trying to be professional about it. So I hatched a brilliant plan. Get out. At my coming-of-age ceremony, I asked Dad to let me go develop some frozen wasteland on the border. Sounds miserable? Perfect. Miserable means nobody fights me for it. No backstabbing, no politics, just me and some frostbite. Freedom, baby. But before I could even reach the family meeting hall, my brothers ambushed me in the hallway like it was a surprise party I never asked for. Carlos slapped my shoulder so hard I almost face-planted into the carpet. Little bro, love the spirit. Then he dropped a chest of 10,000 gold coins at my feet. Literally almost crushed my toes. Plus 3,000 farm worker slaves and a 100-man infantry guard. Just casually, like handing someone a sandwich. Before I could pick my jaw off the floor, second bro Vincent rolled up, all cold and sharp like a human icicle. He threw in 100 fully equipped cavalry soldiers and 10 bronze-rank knights. They answer only to you now, he said, like he was giving me the TV remote, not an entire military unit. Then third bro Fletcher, the family's grain baron, basically a walking Costco, waddled over and promised me enough food to feed 10,000 mouths for a year. Rice, rye, beans, jerky, the works. Not enough? Just holler. My warehouses go deeper than you think, he said, grinning like Santa Claus if Santa ran a logistics empire. I was already mentally short-circuiting when fourth bro Leon glided in like a silent ghost in his fancy wizard robes, all glowing runes and zero warmth. He shoved a crystal box into my hands containing 100 vials of ultra-rare healing potion called Frost Heal, stuff so expensive it could bankrupt minor nobles. If you run out, he said with all the emotion of a refrigerator, message me. Thanks, bro. Very warm. Literally freezing, actually. I'm standing there, brain melting, holding a fortune in potions, standing next to a chest of gold, with an army and a year's food supply, basically gift-wrapped for me. I came here expecting to rough it in the frozen wilderness like some kind of medieval survivalist. Instead, my brothers just handed me a small kingdom's worth of resources. This isn't frontier hardship. This is an armed luxury vacation. And then, heavy footsteps. The floor shaking. A massive figure storming down the hallway like an angry refrigerator in a gold-trimmed coat. Face purple with rage, eyebrows practically vertical. Dad had arrived. So Dad finally showed up, and oh boy, he was mad. But not at me. At my brothers. See, the old man had spent half the night preparing a dramatic speech for my send-off, and these four knuckleheads stole every single line. The man was redder than a tomato in a sauna. You little punks, he roared so loud the tapestries on the walls were shaking. You stole my thunder. My own son is leaving to conquer the frontier, and I, his father, the Yarl, don't even get an opening line? Do I even exist in this family? Now, a smart person would have stayed quiet. But something possessed me. Maybe it was greed. Maybe it was stupidity. Probably both. Dad? I put on my most innocent puppy dog face. How about you just keep it simple? Maybe some startup cash? Gold coins. That popped his rage balloon instantly. His eyes went from murder mode to cautious hope. Finally, something he could do. How much? He barked, puffing up his chest, ready to be the generous patriarch he'd rehearsed all night. Name your price. My son will not leave this house without proper. 100,000. I said it before my brain could stop my mouth. Clean. Crisp. No hesitation. Like a kid asking for candy at the market. Except the candy costs enough to fund an entire night regiment for a year. The hallway went dead silent. You could hear dust particles hitting the floor. The butler's eye was twitching like it had its own heartbeat. Dad froze mid-gesture. Arms still raised, mouth still open in that generous arc. But his eyes? His eyes said, my son is trying to financially assassinate me. His face cycled through colors I didn't know human skin could produce. Purple, gray, white, back to purple. He looked like a broken traffic light. Before he could either explode or have a stroke, salvation. Or rather, destruction. Depends on whose side you're on. Oh, shut it, you cheap old rooster, Mom arrived. Lady Lydia Windsor, daughter of the Frost Raven Duke, one of the most powerful men in the entire North. High-level mage, wearing a dark purple wizard robe covered in glowing defensive runes and starlight sapphires. Hair pinned up with a gemstone hairpin that probably cost more than most people's houses. She walked in like she owned the hallway, the castle, and everyone's dignity in it. She gave Dad one look. Just one. The mighty Earl, the fearsome snow wolf, the man whose name makes nobles sweat. He physically shrank. His neck retracted like a startled turtle. Then Mom turned to me, and her icy death stare melted into pure, weaponized maternal love. Son, take this. She casually dropped a massive enchanted mithril chest, twice the size of Carlos's box, covered in magic gems, with space expansion runes and anti-theft barriers, right on top of everything else. 200,000 gold coins. Spend it however you want. Don't bother asking your cheapskate father for permission. A servant in the corner dropped a silver candlestick. Nobody noticed. Nobody breathed. But Mom wasn't done. Oh no. And if anyone gives you trouble out there, she said, chin raised like a queen sentencing peasants, your grandfather's Frost Raven Ridge Fortress is less than 200 miles north of your new territory. Go find your Uncle Andre. He commands the garrison up there. He's one of the Empire's top military commanders. Tell him Mommy sent you. He'll handle it. Dad's face was now a color that doesn't exist in nature. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. All that came out was a long, wheezy hiss. The sound of a man whose wallet and dignity just got obliterated by his own wife in front of his entire household staff. So let me do the math on what just happened to me. 10,000 gold coins from Big Bro, 200,000 from Mom, 3,000 workers, 200 elite soldiers, infantry and cavalry, 10 bronze rank knight officers. Enough food for 10,000 people for a year. 100 vials of military-grade healing potions. And my uncle, an Imperial Fortress commander, basically on speed dial. My original plan was to hide in some frozen ditch and live quietly. Instead, my family turned me into a walking treasury with a private army and a nuclear-level family connection less than 200 miles away. I didn't ask for a golden parachute. They strapped me to a golden rocket. The castle gates opened, and waiting outside was an army. My army. Rows of soldiers in black heavy armor, cavalry with snarling wolf crests on their shoulders, lances pointed at the sky like a steel forest, knights flanking the formation, and behind them, thousands of workers with wagons loaded to bursting. My lord, Windsor, they roared in unison, slamming weapons into the ground. The sound hit me like a physical wall. My heart did a backflip. Then my brothers shoved me into my carriage. I use that word loosely because this thing was a palace on wheels. The seats were lined with magical beast fur softer than clouds. The walls were polished warm glow wood. Gold wolf sculptures on every armrest. Gold vine patterns on every window frame. A fist-sized deep-sea luminous pearl on the ceiling like a chandelier. Every square inch of this vehicle screamed, I have money and I want everyone to know. Good lord, I whispered, stroking a tiny gold wolf on the armrest. If I parked this thing. Back in my old apartment's underground garage, the carriage started moving, smooth as floating, thanks to sound-dampening magic barriers. And through the window, I watched the Snow Wolf Castle shrink behind me. Then the farmlands. then the dark pine forests rising on the horizon like a wall of green giants. I came into this family as the useless fifth son. I'm leaving it as the most overfunded frontier lord in recorded history. The golden fairy tale ended about 30 minutes into the trip. The farther we rolled from the castle, the uglier everything got. Green fields, gone, replaced by frozen gray wasteland covered in sad moss and dying lichen. The trees went from tall and proud to twisted and miserable, like bony hands clawing at the sky begging for mercy. The blue sky, swapped out for a ceiling of heavy gray clouds pressing down like the world was trying to suffocate itself. And the cold, sweet mother of frostbite, the cold. It punched right through the walls of my ridiculous golden carriage like the luxury meant nothing. Every breath felt like inhaling tiny needles. I wrapped myself in my fancy snow bear fur coat and still felt the chill drilling into my spine. The whole army went quiet. No more brave shouting. Just the grinding of wheels on frozen dirt, the occasional clink of armor, and the wind howling through dead grass like a ghost with a grudge. The workers who'd been marching with some energy earlier were now just zombies shuffling forward on autopilot. Inside my gold-plated rolling palace, surrounded by jeweled wolf sculptures and pearl chandeliers, staring out at an endless frozen wasteland, the contrast was honestly ridiculous. Like eating caviar in a dumpster. Then something tapped on my window. 3 quiet, deliberate knocks. Not the wind, not the road noise. Something else, cold and precise, like frozen knuckles asking politely to come in. It cut right through everything and sent a chill down my neck that had nothing to do with the weather. But I'll get back to that later, because first, let me tell you about this lovely piece of real estate my family gifted me. The North is basically the kingdom's frozen fist, permanently punching toward the Orc kingdom. Freezing winds, constant raids, and a general attitude of, if you can't fight, why are you here? The saying goes. The kingdom's best knights are born in the capital but forged in the north. Cocky royal knights show up acting tough and leave humbled, after the northern boys beat the arrogance out of them with silent, brutal efficiency. My new territory, Kangland Domain, sits right on the edge of this delightful neighborhood. But honestly, the geography is a cheat code. South, Eagle Sorrow Canyon, a massive natural gorge so steep and narrow that defending it is basically put some guys at the entrance and call it a day. Behind it, my family's snow wolf territory, safe as a vault. West, the Continental Divide Mountains, an ancient mountain range so enormous it separates us from the mysterious dwarf kingdom. Dangerous? Sure, but also packed with minerals and treasure. That's my get-rich direction right there. North, infinite frozen wasteland full of everything that wants to eat me. Orc raiders, sneaky kobold tribes, mountain-sized ogres, and terrifying trolls with clubs bigger than my carriage. They're all out there. Staring. Hungry. Fun. East, the comfort zone. My grandfather, the Grand Duke's territory, is right next door. My cousin, also a frontier baron, is the immediate neighbor. And just past him, Uncle Andre's Frost Raven Ridge Fortress, the military backbone of the entire northern border. Basically, if anything goes wrong, I scream east and an Imperial-grade army shows up. The strategy practically writes itself. Build one fortress at the southern canyon, throw most of my troops north to hold the monsters back, and once things stabilize, go west and crack open that mountain range like a piggy bank. Now, Kangland wasn't totally empty when I got here. The last guy who tried to develop this land, some marquis's second son from the capital, full of dreams and ambition, got absolutely steamrolled by a massive troll-led invasion. His castle fell. Did he fight to the last man? Rally his troops? Make a heroic stand? Nope. He ran. Sprinted hundreds of miles back to Snow Wolf City faster than anyone thought possible. Left the Frost Raven Ridge Knights who came to help just standing in the rubble going. Thought seriously, dude. After that embarrassment, Uncle Andre cleaned up the mess, gathered about 10,000 people, rescued refugees plus hand-picked settlers from his own territory, moved them all in, and left a squad of 10 silver rank knights to hold things down until I arrived. Thanks, Uncle. You're the real one. So I inherited one small town, 3 villages, a beat-up castle that looks like it survived a bar fight, barely, and 10,000 people waiting for their new lord. Not glamorous, but not nothing either. The castle still stands, the walls can be patched up, and honestly, With all the gold and troops my family force-fed me, I've got more startup capital than most frontier lords could dream of. The carriage wheels crunched over the stone road in front of the castle. My heart was pounding. This was it. My territory. My frozen, monster-infested, falling-apart territory. And then, right as the carriage rolled into the castle's shadow, ding! A cold, mechanical sound exploded inside my skull, like someone jammed a robot into my brain. Host has met activation conditions. Title granted. Territory acquired. System activated. Permissions initialized. Starter pack ×1. Delivered successfully. Every sound in the world just vanished, replaced by that voice in my head. I have a system now. A whole cheat code. Game menu. Starter pack dropping system. As if being an overfunded frontier lord with a private army and a war hero uncle on speed dial wasn't enough, now the universe itself decided to give me admin privileges. This frozen wasteland has no idea what's coming. The second my boots hit the castle courtyard, I went full boss mode. Not because I'm naturally commanding, but because there was a system screaming inside my skull, and I needed everyone to leave me alone so I could figure out what the heck it was. Stop the carriage. Head to the castle. Guards, take over town defense. Knights, send 5 squads out to scout the territory, draw me detailed maps, report back by sunset. Then, because I'm apparently a generous lord now swimming in gold I didn't earn, every scout gets a bonus gold dragon coin tonight. Everyone else gets 10 silver deer. Quick math for you. 1 gold dragon equals a whole year of income for a normal farming family. I just handed out yearly salaries like party favors. The soldiers outside were making sounds like someone just told them Christmas came early. And permanently. The carriage rolled through the old castle gates, wheels crunching on frozen gravel, everything looking a bit beaten up and sad. And I took a deep breath, ready to hop out and sprint to my room to investigate this system thing. That plan lasted about 3 seconds, because the 10 knights stationed in the courtyard, Uncle Andre's guys, suddenly moved. In perfect sync. Like robots. Heavy armor gleaming in the snowlight. No words. Just 10 armored figures marching toward my carriage and slamming to one knee on the frozen stone like synchronized thunderbolts. Frost Knight Order. 1st Battalion. 3rd Company. 7th Squad. All present. Greetings to Lord Ron. My hand froze on the carriage door. The Frost Knight Order. The Frost Knight Order. Let me explain why my brain just blue-screened. The Frost Raven Grand Duke, my grandpa, commands 5 elite knight orders. The Frost Knights are one of them. They're on the same level as my dad's Snow Wolf family's 3 best knight orders. And before you think, well, if Snow Wolf has similar ones, how special can they be? Let me put this in perspective. There are 5 founding ducal families in the kingdom. They're the top dogs. Below them, you basically need royal blood and proven power to even become a marquis. My family, the Windsors, we're technically just ERLS. But we're the only Earl family in the kingdom's entire 1,000-year history that sits at the big kids' table with the dukes and the crown. We have 5 earldoms under our banner. We're basically dukes who never bothered updating the business card. So when I say the Frost Knights match our top 3 orders, that's not a low bar. That's the bar. Here's how scary these people are. Their minimum entry requirement, the absolute bottom rung, the regular foot soldier, is silver rank. That's 3 full tiers above my pathetic knight squire peak. A squad leader? Peak silver. A company captain? Gold rank minimum. A battalion commander? Earth Knight. The kind of person who can literally shake mountains. And the guy running the whole order? Has to be a Sky Knight, someone who can basically fly. And who's the current commander of this entire terrifying machine? Oh, just my Uncle Andre. Casually. Now let me be brutally honest about where I stand on the power ladder. I'm 16 years old. I've trained my whole life, and after all that effort, I barely reached the peak of Knight Squire, the 1st level. I haven't even broken through to Black Iron yet, which is level 2. My 3rd brother Fletcher, the merchant guy who barely trains, is already at mid-tier Black Iron. I am literally the weakest person in my entire family. The family floor, the basement, the parking garage under the basement. My 4 brothers? Big bro Carlos is a born commander. 2nd bro Vincent is a cavalry beast. 4th bro Leon is a peak-level mage. Even business bro Fletcher outranks me in combat. I'm the guy they'd put behind the supply wagons during a battle and tell to, stay there and count beans. And yet, 10 silver rank knights, any single one of whom could annihilate my entire bronze rank escort plus me without breaking a sweat, just knelt before me like I was their king. Because of my last name. Because Windsor blood married Augustus blood. And when those two family trees cross, apparently the universe just hands you a military-grade cheat code. I stood there on the frozen stones, looking down at 10 silent silver statues of pure lethality kneeling at my feet. And for the first time, I truly understood what it means to be born into power you absolutely did not earn. Rise, I said, trying very hard to sound like I deserved any of this. I did not. But they rose anyway. And somewhere deep in my skull, a system window was still blinking, waiting for me to open my starter pack. Today is a lot. Now let me tell you why those 10 silver knights knelt for me specifically. And it's honestly kind of adorable in a terrifying military dynasty sort of way. I'm Uncle Andre's youngest nephew, the baby of the whole Augustus-Windsor bloodline combo. Apparently, the man who commands one of the North's most lethal fighting forces has a soft spot for his littlest nephew. Maybe he's projecting some unfulfilled fatherly feelings onto me? I don't know. I'm not complaining. The man sends silver knights as babysitters. Most kids get a nanny. I got a kill squad. Their loyalty isn't to me, specifically. It's to what I represent. The freshest link between two of the most powerful families in the North. The Windsor Frostwolf blood plus the Augustus Frost Raven blood, all wrapped up in one scrawny 16-year-old package. I'm basically a walking alliance treaty with legs. And you know what? Standing there in that freezing courtyard, watching these warriors who could snap me like a breadstick kneel at my feet, something shifted inside me. I'm not just some loser fifth son hiding in the corner anymore. The blood in my veins actually means something here. It's terrifying and thrilling, and it makes me want to actually deserve it someday. But first, business. Was it my uncle who sent you? I asked, looking at the squad leader. The front knight stepped forward. Fist to chest plate. Clang. The guy moved like a precision instrument. Sir, Commander Andre ordered us to hold this position until your arrival. From this moment, I, Martin Thorne, and my entire squad are your sword and shield. Command us as you will. We follow unto death, Martin Thorne. I repeated the name in my head. My uncle's first gift of real power. A name I planned to remember. And then, right as Martin finished his speech, the system kicked in again. Cold text materialized directly in my brain like someone was typing on the inside of my eyeballs. New allegiance unit detected. Silver Knight, Martin Thorne. Name, Martin Thorne. Strength, Silver Knight. Peak, class, Frost Knight. Specialized in ice combat and extreme environment warfare loyalty. 85, stable, based on Andre Augustus's authority and knightly oath. 85 loyalty, based on Uncle's orders and his knight's code. Not because he likes me personally. He literally just met me. But because his boss told him to protect me, and this man takes orders very seriously. And that's when I realized what this system really is. It's not just a starter pack dispenser. It's a people scanner. It reads loyalty like a thermometer reads temperature. No guessing. No. Does this guy actually respect me, or is he plotting to sell me to orcs? Just cold, hard numbers. This changes everything. Time for my first big move. I straightened up, channeled every ounce of young lord energy I could fake, and raised my voice so the whole courtyard heard me. Martin Thorne, from today, I appoint you Chief Guardian of Kangland Fortress. You have full authority over all defense, soldier deployment, patrols, fortifications, guard training, town security. Everything. I have one requirement. This place becomes unbreakable. I bit down hard on full authority. Gave him the keys to the whole castle. Bold move for a kid who just showed up 5 minutes ago? Absolutely. Reckless? Maybe. But I had the numbers, literally. Martin's head snapped up. His weathered face. The kind of face that's been slapped by blizzards and orc axes in equal measure, showed genuine shock. Then fire. The man's eyes basically caught flame. My lord, his voice actually trembled, not from weakness, but from barely contained emotion. Martin Thorne swears to defend Kangland Fortress to the death. While I stand, the castle stands. If it falls, I fall with it. My life is yours. He slammed his fist into his chest plate. Boom. The 9 knights behind him roared in unison. Our lives for the Lord. And right on cue, ding. The system pinged again, cold and mechanical as ever. Loyalty surge confirmed. Martin Thorne, loyalty, 90 from 85 to 90. In 30 seconds. Just because I trusted him with real responsibility. That number hit me like a truck full of revelation. The oath wasn't just dramatic words, it was real. 90% real. The system confirmed it. This man meant every syllable. His burning hot pledge and the system's ice-cold number lined up perfectly, passion verified by data. And that's when I truly understood what I had. This system doesn't just show me stats. It shows me who's real. It turns gut feelings into science. In a world of scheming nobles and hidden daggers, I have a built-in lie detector for loyalty. Martin Thorne went from uncle's borrowed soldier to my first cornerstone in the span of one heartbeat. The first brick in whatever empire I'm going to build on this frozen wasteland. The doubts, the insecurity, I'm just the weak little fifth son blues, crushed, ground to powder under a foundation stone labeled Martin Thorne, loyalty, 90, my first real decision as a lord. Handing this man the keys to my entire base just got validated by cosmic cheat software. I think I'm going to like this system. I locked the study door behind me. Dusty bookshelves, dim light through narrow windows, heart pounding like a war drum. System, I whispered it into the void of my own brain like a crazy person talking to an imaginary friend. Except this imaginary friend answered immediately. Boom. Cold. Mechanical. Zero personality. Like two metal slabs colliding in outer space. Blue text burned itself directly into my consciousness. User command recognized. Summoning system core. Identity confirmed. Ron Windsor. Connection active. Can you introduce yourself? Look, I've read 1,000 iSky novels in my past life. I know how systems work. But when one actually shows up in your head, your mouth still goes dry. System name. Empire War System. Core objective. Accelerate host's personal power. Expand host's territory. Ultimate goal. Assist host in establishing their own imperial order. Empire. War. System. 3 words. Brain. Exploded. Then it got better. Way better. The system has 2 main features unlocked. First one. Imperial conscription. Basically, I can spend gold to convert my soldiers into standardized troops from the ancient Caradel Empire military system. They get instant equipment, can earn experience from battles and training, and can level up over time. And here's where I almost bit through my own tongue, because the troop names, the upgrade paths, the entire military tree, it's from Mount and Blade 2, Bannerlord, the Colradic Empire faction, from my favorite video game in my past life. I am not making this up. The universe reincarnated me into a fantasy world, and then gave me a cheat system based on a PC game I was addicted to. What are the ODDS? Here's the breakdown of what I can currently convert. My 13,000 civilians can become Imperial recruits, bottom tier, but it's a start. My 100 Black Iron Infantry become proper Imperial infantry. My 100 Black Iron Cavalry become Imperial Guard recruits. My 10 Bronze Knights upgrade to Imperial Citizen Cavalry. And my 10 Frost Knights? They convert into Imperial Heavy Riders, elite tier. The civilian troops can grow all the way up to gold rank through experience. The Noble Cavalry line? All the way to Earth Knight level. And if any individual soldier hits their ceiling and has enough talent, the system can trigger a special evolution, breaking past their limit into rare hero class units. They keep their gear too. The system equipment isn't forced, just provided as a baseline. Want to swap it for something better later? Go ahead. The system doesn't care. My hands were shaking. This is insane. In the game, top-tier troops were the endgame. Here, they're the starting line. They can keep growing beyond the game's limits. But then, system. Open the starter pack. Activating Beginner's Guidance Package. Contents delivered. Imperial Cataphract X10. That's 10 fully armored heavy cavalry at gold rank. Full gold tier horse armor. Lances, heavy plate, shields, and sabers. Gold. Rank. 10 of them. 10,000 denarii, which converts to 10,000 gold dragons in this world's currency. That's another 10,000 gold on top of everything my family gave me. 10,000 universal experience points. Free levels, baby. 10,000 Caradel peasants. 10,000 extra people I can just drop into my territory's population. Instant workforce. I stopped breathing. 10 gold rank knights. As a welcome gift, In Uncle Andre's legendary Frost Knight order, gold rank means you're commanding 100 riders as a company captain. Each one of these cataphracts could be a regional warlord's most prized champion. And I just got 10. For free. For showing up. I rubbed my face so hard I almost peeled the skin off. My fingers were trembling. How do I summon them? Summoning. Opens a temporary dimensional rift. Target area must be within 1,000 meters of host. Units appear physically. Minor spatial disturbance occurs. Ensure privacy. Noted. Don't summon a gold-rank cavalry squad in the middle of town square. Got it. Then I asked the question that made me almost pass out from excitement. What about other factions? Can I unlock Botania's sword-wielding archers? Asurai's horse missile launchers? Sturgia's berserkers? Multi-faction unlock conditions. Expand your territory significantly. Raise your noble rank. Conquer or deeply ally with different cultural regions. The greater the expansion, the deeper and broader the unlocked troop trees. Expand territory. Raise my rank. Conquer new lands. And in return, the system opens up more civilization tech trees. More troop types. More paths to power. Ha ha ha. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Full supervillain laugh. Echoing off the dusty bookshelves of this beaten-up castle study. Completely unhinged. Absolutely zero regrets. This isn't just a cheat code. This is a roadmap. Expand, conquer, unlock, grow, all the way to building my own empire. The system basically handed me the instruction manual for world domination and said, good luck, have fun. 10 gold-rank cataphracts standing by. 10,000 new citizens ready to deploy. A war chest that would make kings jealous. A loyalty scanner built into my brain. And an entire military evolution tree from my favorite video game made real. I came here planning to survive. Now I'm planning to rule. Okay, deep breath. Laughing over. Time to be a lord. First order of business. Get those cataphracts and 10,000 peasants out of the system and into reality. I focused on the snowy field about 900 meters from the castle gate and fired the mental command. System. Summon 10 Imperial cataphracts and 10,000 Caradel peasants to the open field outside the front gate. Coordinates locked. Summoning in 7 seconds. Spatial disturbance shielding. Active. 7 seconds. Cool. Meanwhile, Martin. The door opened so fast I'm pretty sure he'd been standing with his ear pressed against it. Full armor. Fist to chest. Instant salute. Master. Awaiting your orders. First, stop calling me master. I'm 16. It makes me feel like an old man with gout. Call me Lord. Yes, Lord. Better. Now, take 50 cavalry, ride out the front gate, go 800 meters. You're going to find 10 knights in dark gold armor leading a column of 10,000 civilians heading this way. Receive them with the highest honors. Escort them into town. No questioning. No rudeness. They are my direct forces and my first wave of new citizens. Martin's brain visibly short-circuited for half a second. 10 mystery knights? 10,000 people? Appearing from nowhere in a frozen wasteland? But to his credit, the man is a professional. Soldiers don't ask why. They ask how fast. Understood. Executing immediately. Boom. Fist to chest plate. And he was gone. Boots thundering down the corridor, already barking orders. Frostland squad. On me. We're receiving guests. Now. Here's what happened outside while I was casually standing in my study pretending to be calm. Up on the watchtower, some poor guard was stomping his feet in the cold, probably daydreaming about soup. Then he looked out at the empty snowfield and, holy light above, the ground 900 meters out just opened. Like reality was a window, and someone threw a brick through it. Space folded, cracked, showed a flash of impossible darkness, and then slammed 10 objects onto the frozen earth so hard the vibration traveled up the castle walls. 10 riders, each one a walking apocalypse. Dark gold full-plate armor covering every inch of their bodies, thick enough to stop a cannon. Shoulder plates the size of small tables. Helmets shaped like snarling wolf heads with glowing ice blue eye slits that scan the castle like predators sizing up prey. Lances over 3 meters long, tips gleaming with, I will delete you, energy. Their horses were armored too. Massive war beasts snorting visible clouds of hot breath, hooves punching deep craters into the frozen dirt with every step. And behind them, a flood of humanity. 10,000 men, women, and children in simple clothes, carrying bundles, stretching nearly a kilometer across the snow. Just materialized, out of thin air, like the world's most dramatic magic trick. Every single soldier on the castle walls froze. Not from the cold, from pure, soul-crushing terror. The guard captain said later that the pressure rolling off those 10 riders felt worse than the gold-rank knight commander he'd once seen at a snow-wolf fortress. And that guy could kill black iron soldiers by stomping. These cataphracts weren't even doing anything. Just standing there, in silence. And the entire garrison was shaking like leaves. Someone finally remembered they had a job. The alarm horn screamed across the castle. All units on alert. Unidentified knights below. State your purpose. The biggest cataphract, a mountain of dark gold metal with a faint old scar across his helmet, nudged his nightmare horse forward one step. His voice came through the faceplate like iron grinding on iron. My name is Lane Astartes. We serve under Lord Ron Windsor, the Imperial Cataphract Guard. By our master's will, we escort these settlers to their new home. Open the gates. The guard captain's tongue went numb. His brain went blank. But one word cut through the fog. Ron Windsor. The new lord. Their new lord. The kid who arrived in a golden carriage like 3 hours ago apparently has a private army of golden death machines now. Gee, get Martin. Get the lord. Someone make a decision because I absolutely cannot. He didn't even dare order the gates open on his own. Which, honestly, fair. If 10 glowing war gods showed up at my door claiming to work for my boss, I want someone above my pay grade to handle it too. Meanwhile, I was upstairs in my study, trying very hard not to giggle. I wasn't there to see it in person, but I pieced it together from the aftermath, and honestly, I wish I'd had popcorn. Martin charged out with 50 black iron cavalry like a boss. Confident, professional, ready for anything. Then he saw them. 50 horses skidded to a halt so fast, they probably left skid marks in the snow. Martin's own war horse, a trained military animal that has probably faced orcs, started trembling. The 50 elite riders behind him went dead silent. Not disciplined quiet. More like, if I don't breathe, maybe the golden death monsters won't notice me. Quiet. And honestly, I get it. Because here's what they were looking at. 10 cataphracts. Each one basically a small building made of dark gold metal sitting on top of a bigger dark gold metal building that happened to be a horse. Armor so thick it looked like someone melted down an entire mine and poured it onto a person. Wolf skull helmets with glowing blue eyes. Lances over 3 meters long pointing at the sky like, try me. Their war horses were the size of small elephants, breathing visible steam clouds, punching craters into frozen ground with every hoof step. And they were just standing there, doing nothing, being terrifying as a hobby. Martin, credit to the man, absolute legend, swallowed whatever his survival instincts were screaming, rode forward alone to within 20 steps of these golden nightmares, and delivered the most professionally composed greeting I think anyone has ever managed while their internal organs were trying to escape through their throat. Greetings, mighty knights. I am Martin Thorne, Chief Guardian of Kangland Fortress, sent by Lord Ron Windsor to welcome you. The lead cataphract, Lane Astartes, the big one with the helmet scar, stared at Martin with those glowing blue eye slits. Just stared, like a dragon deciding if something is food or furniture. The silence lasted approximately 17,000 years. Then Lane gave the tiniest nod in human history and raised his armored fist to his chest. Boom. One hit, like a cannon going off inside a cathedral. Then the 9 behind him did the same. In perfect sync. Boom, 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 boom. 9 thunderclaps of metal on metal. The shockwave was so intense that Martin's cavalry horses panicked and stumbled backward. Soldiers on the castle walls probably needed new pants. The sound rolled across the frozen wasteland like the world's angriest drumline. Imperial Cataphract Guard. First Squad. Captain, Lane Astartes. By the will of our master, Ron Windsor. Escorting 10,000 settlers to Kangland Domain. Mission handoff. Every word hit the air like a hammer hitting an anvil. Martin's brain was doing backflips. These things aren't temporary guests. They belong to me. Permanently. His 16-year-old lord, who couldn't even break through to black iron rank, casually owns 10 gold peak killing machines that could flatten a baron's entire domain before lunch. But Martin held it together. King behavior. Captain Lane, welcome. My lord awaits you inside. Please follow me. Then he turned to the castle and screamed louder than I've ever heard a human scream. Open the gates. Welcome our people home. The guard. Captain on the wall. The same guy who'd been having a cardiac event for the last 5 minutes. Practically fell over himself scrambling to the gate controls. Open it. Open the gates. Now. Now, wow. The massive iron-bound doors groaned open. And through them marched 10 golden apocalypse riders, silent as ghosts, followed by 10,000 civilians streaming in like a river of humanity. My black iron cavalry spread out on both sides to guide the settlers in. They were doing their jobs, sure, but every single one of them kept sneaking terrified glances at the cataphracts passing by. The pressure those 10 riders gave off wasn't something you could ignore. It was like standing next to a volcano and pretending you're fine. Martin sat on his horse by the gate, watching the whole procession roll past, and I'm told the only thought visible on his face was something between awe and existential crisis. Somewhere in that frozen brain of his, one thought was blaring on repeat. What in the world has our young lord brought to this land? Kangland Domain is about to change forever, and up in my study, behind closed doors, I was sitting at my desk, pretending to read reports, absolutely vibrating with excitement. Day 1 as a frontier lord. Private army of golden super soldiers, deployed. 10,000 new citizens, arrived. Chief Guardian, loyal and terrified in the best way. System, operational and broken beyond belief. Not bad for a kid who came here to hide. Right. So while my new Golden Terror squad was making everyone outside question their life choices, I was in my study discovering the most broken mechanic in the history of cheat systems. System, what does the personal experience pool do? Personal experience pool. Energy reserve exclusively for upgrading the host's body and abilities. Okay, cool. So I can use those 10,000 points to power myself up. But how do I get more points? Conversion ratio, 1,000 to 1. For every 1,000 experience points earned by any unit under your command, through combat, training, or missions, 1 point flows into your personal pool. This ratio is fixed. I stared at that number. 1,000 to 1. Sounds terrible, right? Sounds stingy? Wrong. It's the most overpowered thing I've ever seen in my life. Let me explain why my brain nearly caught fire. I am, and I cannot stress this enough, the worst fighter in my family. Peak Knight Squire. Level 1. My merchant brother who spends his days counting grain sacks is stronger than me. I have the combat talent of a wet napkin. But now, none of that matters. Because my personal growth is no longer tied to my pathetic body swinging a practice sword. It's tied to my army. Every soldier I command who kills something, trains hard, or wins a battle, a tiny trickle of their experience flows upward, into me. 1 soldier earning experience? Barely a drop. 100 soldiers? A stream. 1,000 soldiers fighting a war. A river. 10,000. A flood. The weakest talent in the family. Doesn't matter when your leveling method is, sit on a throne while 10,000 people grind experience for you. I don't need to be talented. I need to be a warlord. This isn't a knight's path. This isn't a mage's path. This is an emperor's path. Every single person who follows me becomes a battery feeding my power. The bigger my army, the faster I grow. The more wars I fight, the stronger I become. It's a snowball rolling downhill into an avalanche. And how exactly do my soldiers earn experience? Primary source: war, killing, or defeating enemy combatants. Note: difficulty matters. Crushing weak enemies gives minimal returns. Hard-fought victories against strong foes yield significantly more. War. Of course it's war. The system literally wants me to pick fights. Not easy fights either. The harder and bloodier the battle, the bigger the payout. Steamrolling weaklings gives crumbs. Fighting something that could actually kill my soldiers? Jackpot. And wouldn't you know it, I happen to live on a frozen border crawling with orc raiders, kobold tribes, ogres, and trolls who would love nothing more than to test my army's limits. How convenient. I looked at my 10,000 experience points glowing in the pool. Then I looked north, toward the endless frozen wasteland full of monsters. This frontier isn't a punishment anymore. It's an all-you-can-eat buffet. A knock at the door snapped me back to reality. Martin brought Lane Astartes in. The two of them stood in front of my desk, Silver Knight and Gold Rank Cataphract, fists to chest plates. My lord, time to organize this circus. I turned to Martin first. Tomorrow, you reorganize. 100 black iron infantry, yours. 100 black iron cavalry, also yours. Plus 300 fresh recruits from the new settlers. 500 soldiers total. I'm naming this force the Rether Guard. It's the shield that protects our town and holds our choke points. You command it. Martin shot out of his chair like someone electrocuted him. 500 troops. Infantry and cavalry. That's not a guard detail. That's a small army with his name on it. My lord, his voice cracked with emotion. Fist to chest. Boom. I swear on my blood. I will forge this shield. While I breathe, the city stands. If it falls, I fall with it. Sit down, Martin. You're going to dent your armor. Then I turned to Lane. The room temperature dropped about 10 degrees just from making eye contact with that glowing blue visor. Lane, your 10 Imperial cataphracts are the spearhead. The 9 Frost Knights, already here, under your command. My 10 Bronze Knights, your lieutenants and scouts. That's 29 elite riders as the core. Add 71 hand-picked recruits from the settlers as squires and reserves. 100 riders total. I'm naming this force the Imperial Cataphract Knight Order. Lane erupted out of his chair. His dark gold armor caught the firelight and blazed like molten metal. The sound his fist made hitting his chest plate was less of a salute and more of a detonation. Boom. The fireplace flames actually flickered from the shockwave. By your command. His voice wasn't cold metal anymore. It was a volcano waking up. Where the Imperial lance points, there lies our master's border. The glory that once shattered continents shall be reborn through U.S. Martin, sitting 3 feet away, looked like his skin was trying to crawl off his body from the sheer intensity. I stood up, walked right up to Lane's terrifying glowing face, looked straight through that visor. Good. Let this Imperial lance pierce the northern wind. And let this entire continent remember the name Kanglan. The fire crackled. 3 shadows stretched across the stone wall, the shield, the spear, and the kid with a system who's about to make this frozen wasteland very interesting. Day 1 isn't even over, and I've already got a 500-man garrison, a 100-rider elite knight order led by gold-rank monsters, a loyalty scanner, an experience farming scheme, and a starter pack that would make actual kings cry. The North has no idea what just moved in. 1 week later, and let me tell you, being a lord sucks. You know what nobody tells you about ruling a frontier territory? The paperwork. The endless, soul-destroying, eye-bleeding paperwork. I came here expecting sword fights and glory. Instead, I got spreadsheets and migraines. First week, here's what I did. Surveyed the entire territory, mapped out resources, found some usable resource deposits, and split my 10,000 system-summoned settlers into 5 groups to build 5 new villages. Sounds productive, right? Sounds like I've got things under control. I do not have things under control. Good news. The soil here is black earth, same stuff as northeast China from my past life. Incredibly fertile. Could rival the farmlands down south if managed properly. Bad news. My farming knowledge consists entirely of random things my parents and grandparents mentioned at dinner. I'm running 20,000 people's food supply on half-remembered family small talk. With the family's food supply and my new population, I've got over 20,000 mouths to feed. Soldiers eat way more than normal people, by the way. So I threw farming precision out the window and assigned every available person 40 acres each. Figure it out was basically my agricultural policy. The previous lord had already cleared some farmland, but nowhere near enough for my bloated population. Plus, my expansion direction is toward the western mountains, which means my settlers are chopping trees and plowing fields at the same time and building new villages. After an entire week of 10,000 people working themselves ragged, we managed to clear 40,000 acres. Sounds impressive until you realize that's 10,000 people working for 7 days straight. The math is depressing. Meanwhile, military spending was eating me alive. I converted the Rether Guard into system troops. The 300 fresh recruits became level 1 Imperial recruits. The Black Iron soldiers upgraded to level 2 Imperial infantry. Simple enough. But here's where the system decided to personally attack my wallet. Level 1 recruitment cost? 10 gold dragons per soldier. Level 2? 15 each. The Rether Guard alone cost me 5,500 gold dragons. I could physically feel my money evaporating. Oh, and fun surprise, the system's troop tree doesn't have a civilian cavalry upgrade path. Only noble bloodline troops can become cavalry. So I had to yank my 100 black iron riders out of the Rether Guard and shove them into the Knight Order instead, bumping it up to 150 riders. The Knight Order recruitment? 3,500 more gold dragons. Because every single recruit needs to be at least Knight Squire level before the system will even touch them. My gold reserves were hemorrhaging like a broken fire hydrant. I watched the numbers drop and felt my soul leave my body in installments. The one silver lining: the system-issued gear for low-level troops is absolute garbage. We're talking cotton armor with barely any iron in it. The kind of stuff my family gives to village militias to fight off raccoons. So I can sell that junk for about 2 gold dragons per set, which claws back a tiny fraction of my spending. And my territory actually has decent mines: 3 level 1 iron deposits, 1 level 2 refined iron deposit, and 1 level 3 cold iron mine. My family's blacksmiths can forge much better equipment than the system's starter trash. So the plan is custom gear for anyone below level 3, system gear for level 3 and above where it actually gets good. Smart, right? Efficient? I thought so too, until I looked at the total bill. 9,000 gold dragons. Gone. In 1 week. On military recruitment alone. Not counting blacksmith costs, building materials, food consumption, or the 17 settler disputes I had to personally mediate, because apparently, when you cram 20,000 strangers together on frozen dirt, people get cranky. But you know what? Even with the bleeding wallet, this system is still a bargain. Training 10 gold rank knights and 9 silver rank knights from scratch through normal methods? You couldn't do it for 10,000 gold. You probably couldn't do it for 100,000 gold. You'd need decades and a miracle. I got them in a week for less than the price of a mid-tier noble estate. So yeah, my bank account is crying, but my brain knows it's worth it. Day 7. Morning. Sunlight through the window, hitting a mountain of scrolls piled on my desk. My eyes were so bloodshot they looked like road maps. I'd been up all night crunching numbers, and every single report was bad news in a different font. Spring planting, 35% behind schedule. New settler disputes, 17 unresolved cases. Blacksmith workshop, cold iron tempering failed. Again. I snapped my quill pen in half. Ink splattered across the desk like a crime scene. Screw this lord life. I stared out the window at the western mountains, full of untapped mineral wealth and unknown dangers, and wondered if the previous lord who ran away screaming had the right idea after all. No, he didn't, because he didn't have a system, or golden cataphracts, or an uncle with a fortress nearby. He was just some marquis's fail-son with dreams too big for his spine. I'm a different kind of fail-son. The kind with a cheat code and anger management issues. The steward tiptoed in. My lord, dinner is ready. I waved him off. My eyes stayed locked on those mountains. Somewhere in there, buried under rock and ice, is enough mineral wealth to fund everything I need. I just have to survive long enough to dig it out. Day 7, and I'm already broke, exhausted, furious, and running on spite. This is fine. Everything is fine. I kicked my chair across the room. Ink everywhere. Expensive rug, ruined. My mental state, also ruined. You want to know what my glorious iSky life looks like after 1 week? No beautiful women throwing themselves at me. No legendary generals pledging their swords. Just paperwork. Infinite paperwork. Farmer disputes about water ditches. Supply calculations. Failed metalworking reports. I escaped the 996 corporate grind of my past life only to become a medieval middle manager. I wanted swords and glory, not irrigation arguments. I was literally mid-tantrum, calculating how to trick my dad into sending me some administrative officials, when Martin walked in fresh from a scouting mission. Snow on his armor, ice in his eyebrows, bad news on his face. He dropped a leather map on my desk, red marks everywhere, like the territory had chicken pox. 7 goblin nests, about 200 per nest, fond of throwing rocks and setting traps. 5 kobold clans, tunnel-digging night creatures. Annoying, but manageable. Then Martin's finger stabbed the northwest corner of the map like he was trying to murder it. 20 adult trolls. Each one fights at bronze knight level. They've enslaved kobolds as minions. Enough for a small war. Trolls. Great. But honestly, Lane's gold rank cataphracts could handle trolls before breakfast. Problem solvable. Next. Then Martin flipped to the second map, and my stomach dropped through the floor. Orcs, I shot up so fast my desk groaned. There it was, an axe symbol painted in actual beast blood on the eastern section. Nearly 100 warriors, all above apprentice level. At least 5 silver rank orc champions. And Martin swallowed hard. We found traces of a shaman altar. The room went cold. Shaman altar means totem magic, battlefield healing, and most terrifyingly, it probably means their chief is gold rank. Maybe the shaman too. 2 gold rank orcs running around my territory? Without proper defenses, they could wipe out every village except the ones close to town. One bad night, and I'm back to 0. Good news, Martin added quickly, we haven't confirmed their gold rank yet. But they're stockpiling food. Probably preparing one last raid before winter. I stared into the fireplace, memories from this world's knowledge flooding back. Orcs can rip chainmail apart with bare hands. When they go berserk, they'll charge heavy cavalry head-on. Northern saying, 10 orcs charging requires 20 human soldiers dying to stop them. Fun people. I grabbed the bronze bell on my desk, the symbol of lordly authority, ready to summon Lane and start planning a 3-day offensive campaign. But then I looked out the window. Black smoke. Northern horizon. Faint but unmistakable. Martin saw it too. His face went whiter than snow. That's the direction of Scout Team 3. Get Lane. Flying Tiger Knight order moves north now. Yeah, I renamed the Cataphract unit, Flying Tiger Knights, for public use. Because calling them the Imperial Cataphract Guard, in a kingdom with a royal family that gets twitchy about the word Imperial, seemed like a great way to get assassinated. Political Survival 101. The messenger sprinted out, and across the frozen wastes, something ugly was already in motion. 3 goblin tribes and 2 kobold clans, too stupid or too hungry to store enough food for winter, had looked at my newest northern village, Chilian, and thought, free lunch, 800 of them. A tide of green and brown filth rolling across the tundra, stinking of rotten meat and sulfur. Goblins with crude weapons. Kobolds with rusty axes dripping green slime. The kind of army that looks pathetic individually but terrifying as a swarm. But here's why I'm not a complete idiot. I'd already stationed troops up there. I knew the North was the biggest threat from day one. So Chilian had a 100-man infantry company and 50 archers from the Rether Guard, plus a night patrol squad from Lane's order running perimeter sweeps. And then my scouts found something worse hiding behind the goblin swarm. Over 100 Gnoll warriors, with silver rank Gnolls among them. These dog-faced hyena people were using the goblins as cannon fodder while they lurked in the back waiting to strike. My silver rank patrol captain spotted them, grit his teeth, and growled. So they think Kingland Domain is a soft target, huh? Signals already sent. Reinforcements are coming. Not one of these animals escapes. Then the ground started shaking. The monsters crested the snow ridge. 300, 500, 800. A putrid wave of claws and teeth pouring over the horizon toward Chilian's wooden walls. Squad Captain Barton's voice ripped through the wind like a blade. Rether Guard, shield wall. 100 kite shields slammed together. The sound cracked like thunder. Between the shield gaps, steel spears gleamed blue cold, tempered with cold iron powder from our own mines. Up on the wooden walls, 50 longbowmen drew in unison. A rookie named Carl's hands were sweating so bad his arrows were slipping. He could see the frontline kobolds grinning with their fangs out, rusty axes dripping toxic goo. Angle 60, loose, the sky turned black with arrows. The shrieking whistle sounded like death tuning a harp. The first 20-something monsters became instant pincushions, twitching on the frozen ground. But the horde behind them didn't even slow down. They trampled their own dead, smearing blood across the ice like finger paint from hell. Free fire. The archery captain roared, pulling out armor-piercing broadheads. Aim for the joints. Barbed arrowheads punched through monster flesh, and the screams drowned out the northern wind. 70 meters out, close enough to see their rotting skin. Barton's sword chopped downward, advanced 3 steps, spear wall ready, my first real battle. And I wasn't even there yet. But my soldiers were. And they were holding the line. I wasn't at the battle. But my soldiers told me everything afterward, and honestly, it sounded like the most metal thing that's ever happened on frozen dirt. So picture this. 800 monsters, goblins, kobolds, gnolls, smashing into my Rether Guard shield wall at Chilian Village. My boys locked shields, planted spears, and held the line like absolute champions. First wave, Goblins charged. Captain Barton screamed, javelins, and 400 steel rods turned the sky into a blender. The front row of monsters got pinned to the frozen ground like ugly green butterflies. The magic tide stalled for exactly one breath. Then the gnolls hit from the side. 100 hyena-faced nightmares sprinting on all fours, claws ripping trenches in the ice, slamming into the shield wall like a furry freight train. Boom. Blood mist. Bone fragments. 3 frontline soldiers got launched backward, but the second row stepped up instantly, spears punching through gaps like snake tongues. Third row already stabbing into the next opening. Snow wolf devours. My soldiers roared, drenched in monster blood, still pushing forward. The shields held. Barely. My blacksmith's cold iron steel was the only reason. Goblin poison arrows ate holes in the metal, but couldn't punch through. Gnoll claws scraped across breastplates throwing sparks, but couldn't crack them. Without that armor, my men would have been shredded. But the grind was taking its toll. Rookie Carl's arms were shaking so bad, he could barely lift his shield. Sweat froze into ice crystals, eye in his eyes. The guy next to him took 3 poison arrows through his shoulder gap, snapped off the shafts with one hand, and kept fighting, blood freezing into a red ice shell on his left side, slowly dragging him sideways. The right flank cracked. 3 layered shields splintered from repeated impacts. Gnolls jammed claws into armor joints. One soldier got his shin guard bitten through, poison sizzling his flesh, and he was still mechanically swinging his sword, boots frozen half a foot deep in bloody ice. Then the silver-rank Gnoll chief stood up on its hind legs. Tribal tattoos on its chest glowed blood red. Every bone in its body started popping like firecrackers. Ice magic swirled around it. It turned into a living blizzard torpedo and launched itself at the shield wall, freezing the ground into razor-sharp ice spikes as it charged. The watchtower screamed. Bone Ripper is going berserk. Too late. Way too late. My shield wall was about to break. Carl was about to die. Barton's voice was literally bleeding from shouting orders. The goblins behind the gnolls saw weakness and surged forward, drums pounding, green eyes glowing with hunger. This was it. The tipping point. One more hit, and tap, tap, tap. A sound. Quiet at first, like someone knocking on a frozen lake. Then louder. Faster. The ground started vibrating. Snow jumped off the battlefield like popcorn. The goblin shaman's bone staff cracked in half spontaneously. Hooves. It's the night order. The old shaman's voice broke into a shriek. Every monster on the field turned around. On the horizon, 10 suns. Except they weren't suns. They were my cataphracts. Their dark gold armor catching the light and blazing like molten stars tearing across the snowfield. 10 human fortresses riding 2-meter-tall dragon blood warhorses wrapped in cold iron plate armor. 6-meter lances pointed at the sky, tips trailing golden battle aura like comet tails. The horses' face guards were spewing frost steam from their breathing holes. The ground cracked under their hooves. The silver-rank Gnoll chief looked up, mid-berserk, and whimpered. Actually whimpered. Because those golden flames wrapping around each cataphract weren't just for show. They condensed into the shapes of winged tigers. Translucent golden war spirits with molten eyes and blade wings spreading wide. That's a technique only gold-rank knights can pull off, reshaping battle aura into ancient war soul projections. And behind those 10 golden apocalypse riders, 100 more heavy cavalry in full cold iron plate, steam rising from their armor joints, 3-meter lances lowering in unison. 100 spiral shockwaves tore through the snow and merged above the battlefield into a massive phantom, a colossal winged tiger totem covering the entire sky. Lane Astartes flipped open his dark gold visor. His war cry hit the battlefield like a physical force. With strength, we shake the world. 10 lance tips simultaneously punched the air so hard it created visible sonic cones of compressed white mist. The sound barrier was crying. Wings of the tiger. 100 voices fused into a solid wall of sound. The phantom tiger above spread its wings. The entire cavalry formation tripled in speed. Hooves stopped being hooves and became the drumbeat of the apocalypse. The frozen plain split open behind them. 800 monsters had spent the last 20 minutes thinking they were the predators. They had about 3 seconds to realize they were actually the prey. Let me tell you what my cataphracts did to 800 monsters. And I apologize in advance because this is going to sound like I'm making it up. I'm not. The silver rank Knoll chief, the one going berserk, covered in ice armor, about to bite rookie Carl's throat out, had exactly 0 seconds to celebrate. Because Lane's Dragonsteel lance hit it at the speed of goodbye, the air compressed at the lance tip past its breaking point. A visible shockwave cone exploded outward. The Knoll chief's frozen body shattered like a glass sculpture hit by a wrecking ball. Starting from the head, piece by piece, the ice fragments vaporized in Lane's golden aura before they could even hit the ground. The thing didn't get to scream. The sonic boom ate the scream. Then the 100 riders behind Lane hit the monster horde in a wedge formation. I don't know how to describe what happened next except, imagine a lawnmower the size of a building driving through a field of ugly, screaming watermelons. The frontline goblins got ground into the ice, literally pressed into the frozen earth by iron hooves like fruit pulp on a cutting board, green juice spraying outward in star patterns. A Knoll commander screamed, used the bodies as a wall, and shoved his own troops forward. 3 bear goblins raised wooden shields. The lance shockwaves shredded the shields before contact. 1 lance skewered all 3 goblins in a row like a kebab. The rider flicked his wrist and flung 3 corpses into the air, bowling over an entire line of kobold archers. The goblin shaman went insane, shrieking, "Shoot them! Shoot them!" A dozen poison arrows flew at Lane's face. They stopped in midair. Just hung there, vibrating in his golden aura field. Then Lane casually waved his hand, and the arrows reversed direction at triple speed. The shaman got pinned to a dead tree by 7 of his own arrows. The shafts were still buzzing when he died. When the cavalry turned around for a second pass, the battlefield went silent. Surviving gnolls were curled up in fetal positions between their friends' body parts, shaking. The ground wasn't snow anymore. It was a red carpet of crushed meat and bone chips frozen into ice. Lane's visor closed. 2 words through the metal filter, cold as a glacier. Second round. Clean it. The remaining monsters heard those 100 horses start moving again and collectively lost their minds. The last few dozen goblins and gnolls did the only thing their broken brains could think of. They charged my infantry spear wall. Because dying on a human spear was preferable to being trampled again. Let that sink in. My cavalry was so terrifying that monsters chose suicide by infantry as the merciful option. The second charge was worse than the first. Lane's lance dragged along the ground, trailing golden fire that carved molten trenches in the frozen earth, literally writing death sentences in the dirt. The horses reared and screamed, dragon blood breath freezing into red ice crystals. The shockwave from their hooves shattered the frozen blood carpet, launching chunks of previously crushed monster parts 10 meters into the air. The Knoll commander watched his own left leg get pressed into the ice by a horse hoof. The compression wave from the impact turned his upper body into scattered pieces. A flying kidney bounced off a rider's armor, froze solid, and pinged away like a marble. The sonic boom from the charge reached the infantry line before the cavalry did. Front row goblins hit an invisible wall of compressed air. Their eyeballs popped inside their skulls. Brain matter shot from their ears in frozen streams. Then the hooves arrived and, well, imagine 100 pile drivers operating simultaneously on a floor made of ugly. Carl, poor rookie Carl, stood 3 meters away and watched a gnoll's head explode under a horse hoof like a watermelon at a comedy show. The brain matter froze into little pearls midair. A kobold next to it got grazed by a horse's belly armor, and half its body was just scraped off. The exposed spine froze white instantly. Lane jumped his horse over the infantry shield wall for the finale. He spotted a bear goblin playing dead. 1 lance poke. Golden aura spiraled down the shaft and into the creature. It inflated like a balloon and popped. The meat chunks were still airborne when the aura shockwave turned them into blood mist, which then froze into fine red snow that gently drifted down like the world's most disturbing Christmas decoration. When it was over, the cavalry lined up silently, steaming horse breath crystallizing into red ice in the -40 air. Behind them, the charge path was a perfect set of parallel trenches carved through monster remains, like a barcode stamped into the earth by God's own hand. Lane opened his visor, scooped up a handful of red snow mixed with bone chips, and watched it evaporate in his aura. Clean up. Dig out the magic crystal cores. The Lord needs research materials. My infantry survivors leaned on their spears and threw up. The ground under their boots wasn't dirt anymore. It was a 6-inch thick layer of frozen monster paste. One recruit pulled his boot out of the ice, and a piece of goblin ear came with it. On a distant snow hill, a few kobolds that escaped were frantically digging holes to hide in. When they saw the cavalry glance their direction, they jumped into their own holes and ripped their own throats out rather than risk hearing those hooves again. My cavalry broke their will to live. That's not a military victory. That's psychological extinction. After the battle, Captain Barton handled the wounded like a pro. Light injuries to the village doctor. Serious cases got Leon's healing potions that my brother gave me before departure. Every surviving soldier was precious, future veterans who'd train the next wave of recruits. Then Barton ran up to Lane and saluted so hard, he almost dislocated his shoulder. Rether Guard. First Company. Captain Barton. Salutes you. Lane nodded respectfully. Flying Tiger Knight Order. Lane. Well fought. All of you. For the Lord. Barton screamed with the fire of a man who'd found religion. And honestly, he kind of had. See, Barton used to be a peak black iron warrior, stuck at a ceiling he couldn't break through. Then I converted him through the system into an imperial soldier, and after daily training accumulated enough experience, I spent 25 gold dragons to upgrade him to level 3 imperial veteran infantry. His strength instantly broke through to bronze rank. A wall he'd been banging his head against for years shattered in one afternoon because his lord pressed a metaphorical button. That man would now walk into a volcano for me. And once the rest of my soldiers saw what happened to Barton, that following me meant guaranteed advancement past their natural limits. Every single one of them became a true believer. I didn't just win a battle today. I created a cult. A very well-armed, fanatically loyal cult. And I am completely okay with that. Back in my study, Lane reported the battle results. I was not in a good mood. So let me get this straight, I said, voice cold enough to freeze the fireplace. I haven't even gone looking for trouble yet. And these creatures come knocking on my door? Do they think I'm that last loser who dropped his territory and ran? Lane dropped to one knee, eyes blazing. My lord, based on Martin's intelligence, everything north of us except the Troll tribe and the Orc tribe is small fry now. Give me 10 days. I will personally erase every threat around this territory. The man was practically vibrating with eagerness. And honestly, he had every right to be confident. These cataphracts aren't just gold-rank warriors. Back in the Caradel Empire, they were the reserve candidates for the legendary Imperial Cataphract Elite Order. Every single one of them clawed their way through countless wars. They're all former nobles who trained since childhood with unlimited resources, selected from millions. The only reason they're just regular cataphracts and not the elite version is because the Caradel Empire's standards were insane. By this world's standards, they're walking natural disasters. Lane figured he could solo the entire cleanup in 5 days with just his 10 cataphracts. The only reason to take longer was to give the new Flying Tiger Knight Order some training reps. Take a company of Rether Guard infantry too, I told him. Let them farm some experience. And survey every monster territory you clear. Check for usable resources. Yes, my lord. Then Martin stepped forward with the suggestion that made me realize I'd hired the right psychopath. My lord, we don't actually need to wipe out all the kobolds and goblins. I raised an eyebrow. Explain. Kobolds are natural-born miners, Martin said, smiling the smile of a man who's done terrible math. They're omnivores, easy to feed. If we're strong enough, we can enslave them to dig our mines alongside the villagers. And goblins, his smile went from cold to Arctic. Goblins have no reproductive barriers. They breed with basically anything. They grow to adulthood in 1 month. So if we pin them up like livestock, every 40 days we get a fresh batch of adult goblins. Send in a squad of recruits to slaughter them. Instant combat experience. A renewable training resource. He was proposing a goblin farm. Breed them, grow them, kill them, repeat. Forever. An infinite experience point generator made of green meat. Lane, a man who has personally turned hundreds of monsters into frozen hamburger, actually flinched. He stared at Martin like, bro, I thought I was the scary one here. But Lane recovered fast. After all, back in the Caradel Empire days, his unit used to hunt bandits and raiders as training material for new recruits. The goblin farm was just A more organized version of that, with better logistics. As for me, please. In my past life, I played Paradox Grand Strategy games, Crusader Kings, Europa Universalis, Hearts of Iron, Victoria. If you've ever visited the forums for those games, you'd know that every single player is basically a Geneva Convention violation waiting to happen. We turned war crimes into speedrun categories. We optimized atrocities for efficiency. We debated the most cost-effective methods of cultural genocide over lunch. Not human wasn't our motto. It was our mission statement. So when Martin proposed the goblin breeding farm, my brain didn't go, "That's horrible." It went, "We can optimize the breeding cycle by separating age cohorts." Three evil geniuses looked at each other. Quick glance around the room. Then back at each other. Yep, same wavelength. All three of us. Class A were criminals. Every single one. The next day, Lane moved out. His dark gold armor cut through the snow like a blade through silk. The Flying Tiger Knight order materialized from the tree line behind him. 150 riders in cold iron and red forge plate, weapons gleaming in the dim winter light. They stopped 500 meters from the troll nest. Lane's jaw clenched as he studied the dense forest ahead. Rether guard status. 5 minutes out, Commander. 5 minutes of silence. Just wind and nervous horse breath. Lane's eyes never left the tree line. All units. 5-minute rest. Arrows knocked. Swords half drawn. The moment our infantry brothers arrive, his voice turned to frozen steel. We go in. And we flatten those animals. Yes, Commander. One more thing. A tiny pause. A calculation behind those ice-blue eyes. If any kobolds surrender, tie them up. Hand them to the Rether Guard for processing. The goblin farm was already in motion. But first, 20 trolls needed to become very, very dead. 5 minutes later, the Rether Guard's infantry column arrived. No dramatic speeches. No hesitation. They flowed into position behind the cavalry like a steel tide, shields slamming into frozen dirt, spear walls angling forward, sealing every possible escape route into an airtight kill box. Somewhere in that forest, 20 trolls were eating their last meal. They just didn't know it yet. One day later, Lane kicked down the troll nest's front door. And by front door, I mean the entire camp. Flying Tiger Knight order, wedge formation. Target, the nest. Charge. Anything in the way, dies. For the Empire. Kill. With strength, we shake the world. Wings of the Tiger. 150 heavy cavalry hit that troll camp like God through a filing cabinet at an anthill. 500 meters at full gallop is basically nothing. The trolls had just enough time to start screaming before the steel avalanche arrived. Their alarm horns were still sounding when the first lances punched through troll bodies like kebab skewers through wet clay. Here's the thing about trolls. They're big, 4 meters tall, scary looking. But against fully armored heavy cavalry at max charge speed, they're just bigger targets, easier to hit. Their thick skin and bone armor that terrorizes normal soldiers. My riders' enchanted lances went through it like tissue paper. Their stone throws and wooden clubs bounced off the horse armor with sad little clang sounds and left shallow dents. That's it. Dents. The charge path through the camp was a highway of green blood, shattered bones, and frozen meat chunks. Every lance strike punched clean through. Every sword swing took off limbs. Every horse hoof turned troll parts into modern art. Behind the cavalry, my Rether Guard infantry advanced like a steel wall, spear forest tilted forward, methodically skewering anything that tried to run sideways. The kobold slaves in the camp threw down their weapons so fast, they probably set a world record, flopping face down in the snow like terrified pancakes. Then the big one showed up. A roar so loud it shook the ground. A crude shelter exploded outward. And out stomped a 4-meter monster covered in dark golden armor like scales, tusks like curved horse-chopping sabers, eyes burning pure red rage. Gold rank troll chieftain. The pressure coming off this thing made the air feel thick. It was like standing near a furnace made of pure hatred. It ripped a support beam from a collapsed building, a log as thick as a human body, and swung it at Lane like a baseball bat the size of a telephone pole. The wind from the swing alone could have knocked a normal person over. The beam screamed through the air straight at Lane's head. Now, a lesser knight might have panicked, might have tried to dodge, might have soiled their armor. Lane didn't even blink. Cover, one word. Calm. Precise. His left flank bodyguard instantly understood. This knight carried a massive tower shield covered in imperial rune engravings. He poured every ounce of strength into it. The runes lit up with a stable energy coating, and he yanked his horse sideways to angle the shield perfectly between Lane and the incoming telephone pole. Boom crash. Energy discharge and splintering would detonate it simultaneously. The bodyguard's horse shrieked and slid backward, iron hooves carving deep trenches in the snow. The shield cracked, deep fractures webbing across the runes, but it held. Wood splinters exploded everywhere like shrapnel. And in that microsecond, the troll chief's body locked up from the recoil of its own swing. Right side. Lane's other bodyguard had been waiting for exactly this moment. No lance. Instead, a two-handed armor-piercing warhammer. The kind of weapon designed for one purpose, breaking things that don't want to break. The troll's weight shifted. Its guard dropped for a heartbeat. The hammer knight charged forward, horse adding momentum, and swung the hammer upward into the back of the troll chief's knee, the one spot where the armored scales were thinnest. Crack. That sound. You know the sound of snapping a thick tree branch. Like that, but wetter. And louder. And attached to a screaming 4-meter monster. The gold-rank troll chief staggered. Pure agony and rage. Its red eyes locked onto the hammer knight, claws swinging wildly. But the knee shot was never the kill move. It was the setup. Because Lane had been waiting, coiled like a spring behind his two bodyguards. Not flashy, not dramatic, just patient, precise. A predator timing the perfect strike. The instant the troll stumbled forward from its wounded leg, the instant its throat opened up because it was roaring in pain and fury, Lane moved. His weapon wasn't a fancy longsword. It was an Imperial Cataphract standard-issue armor-piercing estoc, a heavy thrusting sword specifically designed to punch through the thickest defenses. No slashing, no spinning, just a needle the size of a man's arm built to find gaps and go through. Lane squeezed his horse forward half a step. The warhorse lunged like it read his mind. Cold light flashed, fast as a snake strike. The estoc shot forward with the combined force of rider and horse, aimed with millimeter precision at one tiny spot, right below the troll chief's howling throat, where the armored scales met the softer skin underneath. A gap you'd need a magnifying glass to find. A weakness that existed for maybe half a second while the creature was mid-scream. Lane found it, and that's where we leave the troll chief. With an Imperial blade heading for its throat at the speed of, you should have stayed in your cave, 3-man teamwork. Shield blocks the hit. Hammer breaks the knee. Sword finds the throat. No wasted movement. No heroic solo nonsense. Just cold, professional, mechanical lethality. This is what real gold rank knights look like. Not flashy. Not loud. Just terrifyingly, efficiently lethal. And these guys work for me. The estoc went through the troll chief's throat like a hot needle through butter. 1 second, the 4-meter golden monster was the undisputed king of the frozen north. Next second, it was staring down at a thin sword sticking out of its neck, probably thinking, well, that's inconvenient. Lane twisted the blade and ripped it out. A geyser of dark green blood, flecked with gold particles because apparently even troll blood is fancy at gold rank, erupted from the wound like a broken fire hydrant. The troll chief made a few wet, gurgling sounds, dropped to its knees like a collapsing building, and face-planted into the bloody snow. Dead. Just like that. Every surviving troll on the battlefield watched their invincible leader eat dirt and collectively decided that today was a great day to give up on life. Screaming, running, falling over each other. The kobold slaves buried their faces in the snow so deep they were practically trying to dig to the other side of the planet. Lane sat on his horse next to the massive corpse, blood still dripping from his unstained estoc, and surveyed the slaughterhouse with the emotional range of a filing cabinet. Collect prisoners. Clean up. Kill every troll. Kobolds who surrendered go to the Rether Guard per standing orders. His two bodyguards flanked him silently, one with a cracked, battered shield, the other with chunks of troll meat still stuck to his warhammer. Nobody said anything. The 3-man kill squad that just dismantled a gold-rank monster in under 10 seconds didn't need congratulations. They needed a wet towel. An hour later, the entire troll nest was burning. Lane watched the flames eat through the filth without a single change in expression. A scout ran up. Next target, Orc settlement. Suspected gold-rank chieftain and a shaman. Exact power level unconfirmed. Lane nodded. Eyes already looking north. Already planning. Meanwhile, back at the castle me. Sitting by the fire. Drawing farming plans like a good little lord. Charcoal pencil scratching on parchment. Very peaceful. Very boring. Then, ding. Battle report. Flying Tiger Night Order. Troll nest elimination. Status. Overwhelming victory. Casualties, 0. Perfect. Kills, 1 gold rank troll chief. 5 silver rank troll elites. 15 bronze rank troll warriors. 10 black iron troll juveniles. Plus a bunch of kobold minions. Total experience earned, 150,000 my personal commander experience. 150 points alert. 50 soldiers have reached promotion threshold. I put down my pencil. Smiled for the first time in days. 0 casualties, 1 dead gold rank boss. 150,000 experience points. Not bad for day 1 of the cleanup campaign. Open promotion interface. The system screen popped up, and my smile died instantly. Infantry promotions. 10 recruits upgrading to Imperial Infantry, 15 gold each. 5 infantry upgrading to Veteran Infantry, 25 gold each. Cavalry promotions. 30 guard recruits upgrading to Citizen Cavalry, 25 gold each. 5 citizen cavalry upgrading to heavy riders, 50 gold each. The system helpfully displayed a big red total at the bottom. Estimated promotion cost, 1,275 gold dragons, 1,275 gold. 450 soldiers. That's just the upgrade fee, not food, not equipment maintenance, not salaries, not any of the 8,000 other things bleeding my treasury dry. Let me do some terrifying math. Mom gave me 200,000 gold. Big bro added 10,000. I had about 30,000 of my own from the system. That's 240,000 total. Sounds like a fortune, right? But I've got 20,000 mouths to feed, roads to build, a castle to repair, defensive walls to construct, blacksmiths to pay, villages to establish, farmland to develop, and now a military that costs more per person than a luxury resort. At this rate, a few more glorious victories, and my gold reserves would look like my hairline in my past life, rapidly receding with no sign of recovery. I give it maybe 6 months before my entire army and I are standing around an empty treasury wondering what went wrong. And oh, I slammed my fist on the desk. Ink bottles jumped. Scrolls scattered. The victory high evaporated like morning frost. Replaced by cold, hard financial panic. I need income. Now. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Right now. Or this entire operation collapses, and we're all eating snow for dinner. But first, I couldn't leave 50 soldiers sitting at their promotion threshold. Unpromoted troops are wasted potential. Every day they fight without upgrading is experience points left on the table. System. Execute all promotions. Heavy rider equipment. Equip immediately. Confirmed. Processing promotions. Funds deducting. Warning. Significant treasury reduction in progress. I watched my gold counter drop. Each number ticking down felt like someone was pulling out my fingernails one by one. The system doesn't care about my feelings. It just takes the money with the enthusiasm of a parking meter in downtown Manhattan. My treasury went from comfortable to concerning in about 4 seconds. I stared at the final balance. Then at the western mountains through my window. Somewhere under all that rock and ice were mineral veins worth a fortune. Iron. Cold iron. Maybe something rarer. I need to crack those mountains open like a piggy bank, and I need to do it yesterday. Being a lord isn't swords and glory. It's spreadsheets and bankruptcy anxiety. Nobody warned me the real final boss of territorial management would be accounting. So here's something I didn't fully anticipate about remote upgrading soldiers in the middle of a campaign. They go absolutely insane with gratitude. The moment I confirmed those 50 promotions from my cozy study, every single one of those soldiers, out there in the frozen north, mid-rest stop, got hit with an instant power surge. 1 second they're polishing swords, next second their muscles are being ripped apart and rebuilt in real time. Bones restructuring. Combat techniques downloading directly into their brains like a martial arts matrix upload. The pain lasted about half a breath, then boom, pure power flooding every cell. One newly promoted heavy rider grabbed his lance. The same lance he'd been struggling to hold steady yesterday, and it felt like a toothpick. Battle formations he'd never learned were suddenly crystal clear in his head. His armor didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt like skin. And then, All 50 of them turned south, toward My Castle, and started worshipping. Praise the Lord, this power. The Lord gave us this. For Lord Ron. They weren't just grateful. They were having a religious experience. Because in a world where breaking through to the next power level takes years of blood and sweat, where some warriors spend their entire lives stuck at one rank, their Lord just casually bumped them up a tier while sitting in his office drinking tea. No explanation. No ritual. Just instant divine-grade power-up. The only logical conclusion for these soldiers? Their Lord has God-level abilities. And they're not wrong, technically. They just don't know it's a video game system. The non-promoted soldiers watched their buddies suddenly get way stronger and immediately developed a severe case of, I need to fight harder, so I get picked next. Motivation went from professional to fanatical across the entire unit in about 30 seconds. Lane paused mid-sword cleaning, scanned the crowd of newly minted zealots prostrating toward the south, and behind his visor, I'm pretty sure he smiled. Just a tiny bit. Because he understood what just happened. This army stopped being a collection of soldiers and became a cult of true believers. And true believers fight with a kind of fearless insanity that no amount of training can produce. Move out, Lane said. Cold as ever, but with an edge now. Every knight mounted up in perfect unison. The fanatical fire in their eyes cooled into focused, lethal ice. Zealotry plus discipline equals nightmare fuel. Next target, the Orc settlement. Codename, Bloodhowl. The Flying Tiger Knight Order assembled 500 meters from the camp's flank. Total silence. Frost in the air, so thick you could chew it. Lane pointed at a weak spot in the wooden palisade wall. His hand dropped. The war horn screamed. Kill. The charge was faster than before. Those 50 upgraded soldiers hit, like they had rockets strapped to their horses. The newly promoted heavy riders led the wedge, bodies surging with power they'd had for less than an hour, slamming their lances into the wooden wall's structural joints with the force of battering rams. Crack, crack, boom. An entire section of palisade exploded inward. Logs snapped like chopsticks. Stone foundations crumbled. Dust and debris mushroomed into the cold air. Lances retracted. Sabers drawn. No pause. The cavalry poured through the breach like molten steel through a crack in a dam. Lane hit the smoke cloud first. Shield up, saber flashing. An orc warrior lunged out of the dust. Lane's blade opened its throat before it finished its war cry. Blood sprayed sideways in a perfect arc. The promoted knights were terrifying. Their shield work was surgical now, deflecting attacks with millimeter precision, using the momentum to spin into counterstrikes. Saber techniques that would have taken years to master were executing flawlessly. In the tight spaces between crude orc huts, they became close combat blenders. Orcs fell like grass before a scythe. For about 90 seconds, it was a massacre. Then the real fight started. Rohair. Kill the tin cans. The center stone house exploded. Out charged the orc chieftain, Blackscar Grush, gold rank, massive, wielding a battle axe that looked like it was forged from pure hatred. Blood-red battle aura erupted from his body like flames. And floating behind him, the shaman, Bonecaller Mogrel, gold rank, hovering in the air, staff glowing with sickly light. 2 gold rank orcs. My worst-case scenario confirmed. Rot blood fog. Earth-splitting hand. The shaman unleashed a cloud of poisonous green mist while the ground itself cracked open with grasping stone fingers trying to crush my cavalry. 2 gold rank bosses. Toxic magic. Earthquake attacks. In a confined camp full of angry orcs. Lane and his 10 cataphracts versus the orc leadership. The clash that would decide whether my territory sleeps safely tonight or burns tomorrow. And me? I was back in my castle, staring at my shrinking gold counter, having no idea that my army was currently fighting 2 gold rank monsters simultaneously. Being an absentee warlord is very stressful when your phone doesn't get signal from the frozen tundra. All I could do was wait, watch my money disappear, and hope my golden murder machines were as good as advertised. Spoiler, they were. But that's the next chapter, and I'm still trying to process the fact that my soldiers now literally worship me as a divine being. I went from useless fifth son to messianic figure in 1 week. This job has a weird learning curve. The orc fight lasted about 15 seconds. I wish I was exaggerating. Here's what happened. Lane yelled, "Gold squad. Kill the shaman, kill the chief," and 10 golden suns ignited across the battlefield simultaneously. My 10 cataphracts went full power. One cataphract hurled a javelin made of pure condensed battle aura with anti-magic runes carved into it. The shaman Mogrel tried to throw up a bone shield. The javelin punched through it like it was made of wet paper. The shaman went flying backward, all his fancy death spells cutting out like someone yanked the power cord. Meanwhile, four cataphracts formed a mini-wedge aimed straight at Chieftain Blackscar Grush. The lead knight activated a gold-rank charge technique called Immovable Fortress. His shield expanded into a massive golden energy wall with a roaring tiger face on it, and he rammed straight into the chieftain at full speed. Grush swung his giant axe, blood flame aura blazing, and hit the shield dead center. The sound. Imagine God ringing a church bell with a meteor. A gold and red shockwave flattened every hut within 30 meters. The shield knight's horse screamed, hooves carving deep trenches in the dirt. But the knight didn't move 1 inch. Shield cracked, but held. And in that tiny window, Grush's axe bouncing back, arms overextended, guard wide open. 3 golden shadows slipped around the shield knight like ghosts. 3 sabers. 3 different flavors of death. Saber 1, wrapped in lightning. Saber 2, coated in freezing ice. Saber 3, moving so fast it created a sonic boom. And Lane, silent, precise, no flashy aura, came in with his armor-piercing estoc aimed at the throat. Again, because apparently that's his signature move and it works every single time. No, was all Grush managed. Lightning Saber ripped through his blood flame aura. Ice Saber sliced into his ribs and froze his blood solid. Sonic Saber smashed his axe handle. Lane's estoc punctured his throat. 4 gold rank knights. 1 simultaneous strike. The orc chieftain basically exploded. Blood, thunder sparks, ice shards, and broken armor flew in every direction. Dead before he hit the ground. The shaman? Still crawling, trying to stand up. 2 more cataphracts casually threw purification enchanted tracking javelins. 1 through the skull, 1 through the heart. The old bag of bones flopped over and stayed down. Both gold rank orcs, the biggest threat to my territory, dead in under 20 seconds. They didn't even get to use most of their abilities. It was like watching 2 final bosses get speed killed by players who'd memorized the entire fight. The remaining 4 cataphracts who didn't even participate in the boss fight strolled into the battlefield to mop up the silver rank orc commanders. Tiger among sheep doesn't begin to describe it. Gold versus silver is such an overwhelming gap that these orc veterans, warriors who'd survived countless battles, couldn't even mount a defense before they were cut down. Then Lane flicked the blood off his sword. The 10 cataphracts quietly powered down their golden auras and returned to formation like nothing happened, and the rest of the Knight Order handled cleanup duty on the regular orcs. The whole battle site looked like a tornado had fought an earthquake inside a slaughterhouse. And in the middle of it all, 2 gold-rank corpses, shredded like confetti. Back in my study, I was drawing farm layouts when the system pinged. Battle report, Flying Tiger Knight Order, Blood Howl, Orc Tribe Elimination, Status, Overwhelming Victory Casualties, 7 lightly wounded, 0 dead, 0 seriously injured. Gold rank kills, Chieftain Blackscar Grush, gold, dead. Shaman Bonecaller Mogrel, gold, dead. Silver rank kills, for orc commanders, all dead. Plus everything else. Total experience, 215,000, bonus highlighted. Double gold rank kill multiplier. My personal experience, 215 points, and then, the number that made my heart stop for a completely different reason than usual. Estimated loot value, 18,500 to 22,000 gold dragons. I read that 3 times. Then a 4th time. Then I made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. 20,000 gold. From 1 battle. That's almost enough to cover all my promotion costs and fund the next round of upgrades. War isn't just my soldiers' experience farm. It's my financial plan. Monster parts, rare materials, magic cores. Turns out dead gold rank creatures are worth a small fortune. The system also helpfully noted 70 new soldiers ready for promotion. 70. That's going to cost. I don't even want to calculate it. My wallet just stopped crying from the last round. But you know what? The math finally makes sense. Fight expensive monsters, earn loot that pays for upgrades. Upgraded soldiers fight harder, earn more loot. It's not a money pit. It's an investment cycle. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. 2 gold rank threats eliminated. Territory secured on all fronts. Army getting stronger by the day. Treasury actually recovering thanks to war loot. Soldiers worshipping me like a god because of instant power-ups they can't explain. 1 week ago I was a broke, stressed-out lord screaming about irrigation ditches. Now I'm a warlord sitting on a self-sustaining military economy, protected by 10 golden knights who can delete boss-level monsters in 15 seconds, with a fanatical army that would march into hell if I pointed at it. The frozen north has been served notice. Kanglan Domain is open for business. I looked at that battle report one more time. Overwhelming victory, 0 dead. 2 gold rank bosses deleted. 215,000 experience points. And most importantly, estimated loot worth over 18,000 gold dragons. You know what? That 1,275 gold I spent on promotions earlier? I was whining about that. Meanwhile, my army just earned back 15 times that amount in a single battle. I take back every complaint. War isn't a money pit. It's a money fountain. 70 more soldiers ready for promotion. My wallet twitched instinctively, but I was done being a cheapskate. These soldiers earned their upgrades in monster blood. Time to reinvest. System. Upgrade everyone. Ding. Gold counter goes down. Army power goes up. Circle of life. I sipped my honey wine and watched the numbers drop with the calm smile of a man who finally understands his own business model. Spend gold to make soldiers stronger. Send stronger soldiers to kill bigger things. Bigger things drop more gold. Rinse. Repeat. Scale infinitely. I'm not running a territory. I'm running a war-based hedge fund. A few days later, the army came home. I wasn't on the watchtower, but I heard about it from the guards. Sunset. Golden light melting across the snow. And out of that blazing horizon, a steel army materializing like ghosts from a painting. Lane at the front. Dark gold armor silhouetted against the dying sun, shadows stretching behind him like a battle flag. 150 knights in formation behind him, faceplate sealed, eyes cold, riding in perfect silence. The sound of their hooves was a low, endless thunder rolling across the frozen earth. Behind the cavalry, a very different scene. Hundreds, maybe 1,000, terrified kobolds, hunched and trembling, being herded by blood-stained infantry who looked exhausted but still gripped their weapons like they'd stab anything that sneezed wrong. A gray-green river of prisoners stretching back toward the horizon. The watchtower guards lost their minds. It's the flying tigers. They're back. Look at all those prisoners. There's hundreds. Get Martin. Tell the Lord. Lane is home. The whole town erupted. People running, shouting, pointing at the steel column crawling toward the gates. The quiet little frontier settlement suddenly felt like a capital city welcoming a conquering army. An hour later, prisoners were counted and dumped into a temporary camp under Rether Guard supervision. The infantry and most of the cavalry practically crawled to their barracks, threw their armor on the floor, and passed out face-first on their bunks. Snoring shook the walls within minutes. These guys had been fighting and marching for days straight. Lane didn't rest. He wiped the worst of the blood and mud off his armor, kept the full cataphract suit on, and marched straight to my castle with Martin. Because apparently gold-rank knights don't need sleep. They run on duty and violence. I was in my study reading farming reports. Yes, still farming reports. My life is glamorous. When the butler knocked. My lord, Sir Martin and Sir Lane request an audience. Send them in. Then I paused. Thought for a second. Wait. Prepare a guest room for Lane. Hot water, lots of it. And tell the kitchen to make hot food. Big portions. The man just came back from war. He needs a meal, not a meeting. Martin probably hasn't eaten either. The butler bowed with visible approval. Small thing, right? But I've learned something in this new life. Soldiers will die for a lord who remembers they're human. Gold rank killing machine or not. Lane spent days sleeping in frozen dirt and eating field rations. A hot bath and a real meal costs me almost nothing, but it buys loyalty you can't purchase with gold. The study door opened. Martin walked in first, wearing clean clothes but practically vibrating with excitement like a kid on Christmas morning. Then Lane, still in full dark gold armor. Firelight flickering across the battle-scarred metal. He brought the smell of frozen blood and victory with him. The temperature in the room dropped 2 degrees just from his presence. 2 men. my shield and my spear, one buzzing with energy, the other cold as the grave, both looking at me with absolute loyalty in their eyes. I leaned back in my chair. A week and a half ago, I was a panicking teenager with a golden carriage and a prayer. Now I'm sitting in MY Castle, in MY territory, receiving MY victorious commanders after they wiped every major threat off MY map using MY army. The goblin nests? Cleared, breeding stock captured for the experience farm. The kobold clans? Conquered, put to work in the mines. The troll tribe? Extinct. Gold rank chief? Dead. The orc settlement? Gone. 2 gold rank bosses, deleted in 15 seconds. Northern border, secured. Treasury, recovering nicely thanks to 18,000 gold in war loot. Army, fanatically loyal and getting stronger after every fight. And we haven't even touched the western mountains yet. The real treasure is still waiting. I looked at my 2 commanders standing at attention before my desk, and for the first time since arriving in this frozen wasteland, I felt something I hadn't felt before. Not anxiety, not panic, not the desperate survival instinct of a transmigrator clinging to borrowed power. Just confidence. The quiet, steady kind. The kind that says, this is working. The plan is working, and it's only going to get bigger from here. Sit down, gentlemen, I said. Let's talk about what comes next. Lane walked into my study looking like he'd been dragged through a slaughterhouse, rolled in mud, and then left in a freezer overnight. His armor was so caked with troll green, orc red, and frozen dirt that you couldn't tell what color it was originally. The man smelled like a battlefield's autobiography. He stood at attention in front of my nice, clean desk, glanced down at himself, then at my pristine fur-covered sofa, and I swear I saw actual embarrassment on a gold-rank killer's face for the first time. Like a kid who tracked mud into the house. I got up, walked around the desk, and pushed him onto the sofa myself. Battlefield stains are a warrior's medals. They're never dirty. This tidy office. Sometimes the cleanest rooms hide the bloodiest decisions. You're home. Relax. Something shifted behind those tired eyes. A spark. Lane's loyalty wasn't just professional anymore. It was personal. I could practically feel it clicking into place. Note to self. Sometimes a kind word after a hard fight is worth more than 1,000 gold coins. Now, report, then go eat. I've got hot water and a guest room waiting for you. Tomorrow the whole army rests. Day after, victory feast for everyone. Lane straightened up, exhausted but sharp, and delivered the goods. All known threats in the Northern Territory, eliminated. Music to my ears. At the Orc Bloodhowl site, we discovered a level 3 cold iron mine and 2 level 1 refined iron deposits. More mines. On top of the ones I already had. My territory was turning into a mineral gold mine, literally. Captured over 3,100 kobold prisoners, 3,000 new mine workers. Free labor courtesy of conquered monster tribes. My mining operation just got a massive workforce injection. Per your strategic orders, we herded approximately 200 goblins, along with several flocks of mountain goats, into Broken Spine Valley. Martin assessed the valley as enclosed, resource-sufficient, and predator-free. Estimated goblin population explosion to over 1,000 within 2 months. At that point, internal resource pressure will split them into at least 2 separate tribes, creating an ideal renewable training ground for our recruits. The Goblin Farm. It's live. 200 seed goblins in a sealed valley with food, breeding like rabbits, splitting into tribes we can harvest for combat experience every few weeks. My Paradox Games brain was purring with satisfaction. Then I leaned forward and said something that made Lane almost fall off the sofa. Your strength is nearly at the threshold for Imperial Elite Cataphract. His eyes went wide. Imperial Elite Cataphract, the legendary pinnacle of the Caradel Empire military. Earth Knight level. The kind of warrior that regular barons have to bow to. Every cataphract's ultimate dream. And I just told him the door was within reach. Take your core squad into the Western Divide Mountains. Hunt the monsters there. Black iron to silver rank, perfect grinding range. Build your experience. When you're ready, I'll promote you personally. Lane launched off that sofa like it was spring-loaded. Full meal. Fist to chest. Boom. His voice cracked with emotion. This stoic, ice-cold killing machine who decapitates gold-rank orcs without blinking was now shaking with excitement. Yes. Thank you, my lord. For Lane, this wasn't just a power boost. In the old Caradel Empire, elite cataphracts had status equal to nobility. Regular barons treated them with respect. It was the highest honor a military man could achieve, and his lord just casually promised it to him, like handing out a bonus. I sent him off to eat, bathe, and sleep. The man needed all three desperately. Next morning, winter sunlight, thin and weak but trying its best, crept over Kanglan town. The castle kitchens had been running since before dawn. Massive iron pots bubbling with thick stew. Fat chunks of meat slow-cooked until they fell apart. Spiced root vegetables. Mountains of fresh-baked bread with crispy golden crusts. The smell drifted across the entire settlement like a warm, delicious fog. My order: feed the army until they can't move. No limits. The barracks were silent for once. No drilling, no shouting, no armor clanking. Just epic-level snoring from 150 knights who'd finally let their guard down. Armor thrown in corners. Muddy boots scattered everywhere. The rooms smelled like sweat, leather, and iron. The perfume of men who've earned their rest. Kitchen servants wheeled massive wooden tubs of steaming food between the barracks, leaving portions at every door. The smell eventually won against exhaustion. Soldiers crawled out of bed, eyes half shut, bodies still aching, and gathered around the food like moths around a very delicious flame. No talking, just the satisfied sounds of hungry warriors eating like they meant it. This was the quiet after the storm, the exhale after holding your breath for days. And beneath that calm surface, this army was completely transformed from what it was 2 weeks ago. When they arrived, they were a mixed bag of borrowed knights, nervous recruits, and untested system troops. Now, they were veterans. They'd fought goblins, gnolls, trolls, and orcs. They'd watched gold-rank monsters die. They'd been promoted by what they believe is divine power. They'd marched home with prisoners and loot and the knowledge that their lord takes care of them, feeds them, upgrades them, and remembers they need hot baths. 2 weeks. That's all it took to build a fanatical, battle-hardened military force from scratch. Northern threats, gone. Kobold miners, acquired. Goblin farm, operational. New mines, discovered. Army, resting, fed, loyal to the point of worship. Treasury, recovering. Western mountains, next on the menu. I stood at my study window watching the thin winter sun paint the snow gold, listening to the distant sounds of my soldiers eating their well-earned feast, and allowed myself exactly 5 seconds of pride. Then I went back to my desk, because tomorrow the rest ends, and the real work, cracking open those mountains and building an empire, begins. 5 seconds of pride is all a lord can afford. The spreadsheets don't fill themselves. Let me give you the army status update, because after all that fighting and spending, the numbers are actually looking gorgeous. Flying Tiger Knight Order. Every single regular cavalry member promoted to bronze rank Imperial Citizen Cavalry. Better horsemanship, tighter formations, harder hits. These aren't recruits anymore. They're proper soldiers who've seen real combat and live to brag about it. Rether Guard. All soldiers now at black iron level. Every single one. Tougher bodies, better weapon skills, especially that shield and spear combo that turned them into a walking steel wall during the goblin fight. They're not elite, but they're solid enough to make any bandit group or small monster pack take one look and choose a different career. 10 gold rank cataphracts at the tip. Bronze cavalry as the shaft. Black iron infantry as the foundation. A proper military pyramid, forged in blood and funded by my rapidly shrinking, but recovering, gold reserves. I stood at my study window, looking down at the military camp. Lazy smoke drifting up. Soldiers resting. The whole scene peaceful and quiet. But I knew what was underneath that calm. A war machine getting sharper by the day. Rest day. Feast day. Victory celebration. Then it was my turn. 3 days after the army came home, I locked myself in the castle's secret training chamber. Heavy oak door sealed shut. Outside, Lane and all 9 of his cataphract brothers standing guard like golden statues, their combined aura creating an invisible force field that would make anyone with half a brain turn around and walk away very quickly. 10 gold rank knights guarding one door. Overkill? Maybe. But when your lord is about to have a breakthrough, you don't take chances. Inside the chamber, dim light through narrow vents. The smell of burned magic crystal powder. Me, sitting cross-legged in the center of a special energy-gathering formation drawn on the floor. I pulled up my system panel. Personal experience, 10,520, 10,520 points. Earned from the blood and sweat of every soldier under my command. Trickled up through the 1,000 to 1 ratio from thousands of kills, countless training sessions, and 2 gold rank boss fights. Enough for what I needed. System. Promote me to Black Iron Knight. Confirmed. Executing. The number started dropping. 10,520, 10,200, 9,900, 9,500. And then my body decided to have a very dramatic reaction. Imagine someone injecting liquid fire directly into your bone marrow while simultaneously running electricity through every nerve ending you own. That's what it felt like. 1,000 white-hot needles drilling outward from the inside. My muscles seized. Veins bulged across my forehead and arms like angry snakes. Sweat soaked through my clothes instantly, pooling on the stone floor. I bit down so hard I'm surprised I didn't crack a tooth. One strangled grunt escaped, an NGH. And that was all the weakness I allowed myself. Because inside the agony, something incredible was happening. At my core, a battle aura seed, half energy, half physical matter, was spinning like a tiny star, greedily devouring the converted experience, growing denser, more solid, more real with every heartbeat. The pain was the old me being torn apart. The warmth rushing in behind it was the new me being built. Then crack. Not a bone. Something deeper. A barrier. The fundamental ceiling that had kept me trapped at Night Squire for my entire life. The wall I'd banged against since childhood while my brothers sailed past it, shattered, like glass breaking inside my soul. The agony vanished instantly, replaced by, oh man, how do I describe this? Imagine you've been wearing a full body cast your entire life, and someone finally cuts it off. Everything feels light. Everything feels possible. Warm energy flowing through pathways that used to be narrow and are now wide open highways. My 5 senses cranked up to 11. I could feel the individual dust particles in the air, sense the faint aura signatures of the gold knights outside the door, hear their breathing through solid oak. My muscles were denser. My heart pumped harder. Even my thoughts moved faster. Black Iron Knight. Achieved. I opened my eyes, clenched my fists, felt the raw power surging through rebuilt muscle and reinforced bone. And I laughed. Not the manic supervillain laugh from when I discovered the system. This was different, deeper, more personal. The laugh of a man who spent 16 years as the weakest brother, who watched everyone around him break through while he stayed stuck, who was pitted and overlooked and written off as the family's dead weight, and who just shattered that ceiling with borrowed power and his own iron will. Yes, having 10 gold rank knights is amazing. They can flatten armies. But that's their power. Borrowed strength. A lord who relies entirely on others is a lord who's one betrayal away from being nothing. This burning energy in my veins, this new density in my bones, this sharpness in my senses, this is mine. No one gave it to me. No one can take it away. Every point of experience was earned by my soldier's sacrifice, funneled through my system, and forged into MY body through MY pain. Black iron isn't impressive by my family's standards. Carlos would laugh. Leon wouldn't even look up from his spell book. Even Fletcher passed black iron ages ago. But they don't know what I know. They don't have what I have. For them, black iron took years of personal training. For me, it cost 1,000 gold in army upgrades and 2 weeks of warfare. And tomorrow, my army fights again. And the day after. And the day after that. Every battle making them stronger. Every battle making me stronger. Black iron today. Bronze tomorrow. Silver next month. Gold by year's end. The ceiling that trapped me for 16 years wasn't my limit. It was my starting line. I checked my remaining experience. 9,520 points. Barely spent 1,000 to break through. The rest stays in the bank, growing with every fight. I flexed my hands one more time, feeling the power hum through every fiber. Then I stood up, straightened my sweat-soaked clothes, and walked to the door. Time to get back to work. An empire doesn't build itself, but it builds a lot faster when the emperor is getting stronger too. I woke up the morning after my breakthrough feeling like a new person. Literally. My body hummed with black iron energy, my senses were sharper, my muscles moved with a precision I'd never felt before. For about 30 seconds, I felt amazing. Then I looked at my desk. Mountains. Mountains of paperwork. Tax summaries. Building permits. Mill disputes. Land allocation for new settlers. And, oh joy, a detailed budget for the upcoming victory feast that somehow had 47 line items. The new power in my veins. Useless against bureaucracy. Absolutely, completely useless. I can now punch through a wooden plank, but I still can't make a tax report disappear by glaring at it. Believe me, I tried. UGHHHHH. I collapsed back into my chair so dramatically you'd think I was dying. The sound that came out of me was less, warrior lord, and more, office worker on a Monday. Here's the thing nobody tells you about being an Ice Guy protagonist. You don't just fight monsters. You fight SBREADSHETS. And the spreadsheets are winning. I survived orc shamans, troll chieftains, and 800 goblins. But a stack of neighbor dispute paperwork about who owns which section of irrigation ditch? That might actually kill me. In my past life, I escaped the 996 corporate hell. I literally died and got reincarnated into a fantasy world. And what's waiting for me? The same job. Except now instead of Excel, it's quill pins on sheepskin. And instead of a passive-aggressive manager, I have 20,000 settlers who all apparently need me to personally decide whether Farmer Grigori's goat is allowed to graze on Farmer Pavel's side of the creek. I can't do this anymore. Something inside me snapped. Not in a bad way, in a clarity way. Like when you're drowning in work and your brain finally goes, stop. Delegate. I need to go home. Right now. The plan crystallized instantly. Go back to Snow Wolf territory, find Dad, and beg/bribe/guilt trip him into lending me some experienced administrators. Chief administrative officers. Tax specialists. A proper bureaucratic team. Because if I have to personally arbitrate one more land dispute, I will become the first Night Lord in history to die of paperwork-induced brain hemorrhage. And that's a really embarrassing way to go. I signed the most urgent documents at lightning speed. Military supplies, feast logistics, done. Then yanked the bell cord. Get me Lane and Martin. Now, they showed up together. 2 salutes. 2, my lord. 0 time wasted. Gentlemen, the military framework is solid. You've built something real. But the administrative side of this territory is held together by me, caffeine, and sheer spite, and all 3 are running out. I pointed at the paper mountain on my desk like it was a war crime exhibit. I'm going back to Snow Wolf territory. 2 objectives. First, get administrative staff from my father. Experienced officials who can actually run a territory without the Lord having a nervous breakdown. Second, buy winter supplies and recruit more settlers for spring farming and workshop expansion. Then I looked at Martin. While I'm gone, you're acting governor. The man looked like I'd just told him he won the lottery and got struck by lightning at the same time. His eyes went huge. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. I didn't give him time to process. Priority 1. Winter is coming. Yes, I know how that sounds. Get every village's winter housing finished before the deep freeze. Roofs on, walls up, and no exceptions. People freeze to death. That's on us. Priority 2. Clear more farmland for spring planting. Priority 3. The new mines lane found at the Orc site. Start preliminary exploration and set up basic extraction infrastructure. 3 tasks. 3 pillars of territorial survival. Housing, food, resources. In that order. These 3 things are the most important tasks in the entire domain right now. Everything else is secondary. Martin hit the floor. 1 knee. Fist to chest. Boom. His voice was shaking. Not from fear, but from the weight of what I'd just handed him. See, Martin knows his place on the power ladder. He's peak silver, strong, experienced, loyal as they come. But standing next to Lane and 10 gold-rank cataphracts? He's a candle next to 10 suns. He knows that. He feels it every day. But I've never treated him like he was less important. Because he's not. Lane is my sword. Martin is my foundation. Swords win battles. Foundations win wars. And right now, I just handed him the keys to the entire territory and said, I trust you with everything. That kind of trust? From a lord to his subordinate? In a world built on hierarchy and suspicion? It's worth more than gold. More than promotions. More than power. Martin would have already died for me. After today, he'd die for me twice. So here's the situation. I'm heading home to mooch administrators off my dad. Martin's running the territory, Lane's guarding the realm, and somewhere in Broken Spine Valley, 200 goblins are doing what goblins do best, making more goblins for my soldiers to practice on later. Everything's in motion. The machine is running. I just need to add one missing piece, someone who actually enjoys doing paperwork. Because I would rather fight another gold rank troll with my bare hands than read one more tax report. And that's not a joke. I've genuinely done the math on which one is less painful. The troll wins. By a lot. I told Martin to get up, stop being emotional, and go coordinate with the castle steward. Also, keep training the Rether Guard every single day. Winter doesn't mean vacation. Winter means training in worse conditions, which builds better soldiers. He saluted so hard I thought he'd dent his own chest, then marched out with the energy of a man who just got the promotion of his life. Door closed. Just me and Lane. Lane, pick 5 cataphracts and 50 citizen cavalry. You're all coming with me to Snow Wolf territory. 55 elite riders as my personal escort. 5 gold rank killing machines at the front. 50 bronze rank heavy cavalry behind them. Is that overkill for a road trip to visit Dad? Absolutely. But here's the thing. When you roll up to your family estate after being gone for weeks, you don't show up in a taxi. You show up in a convoy. Last time they saw me, I was a scrawny teenager with no talent climbing into an overly fancy carriage with borrowed soldiers and a prayer. This time, I'm coming back with my own army, my knights, my colors. Let the whole Snow Wolf territory see what the useless 5th son built in 2 weeks on frozen dirt. Lane's eyes flashed with understanding. No questions. Just, as you command, my lord, fist, chest gone. The man's response time is faster than my system's loading screen. Half an hour later. Half an hour. These guys are efficient. 55 riders were assembled in the castle courtyard. Perfect formation. Silent. Terrifying. 5 cataphracts at the front. Dark gold armor. Glowing blue eye slits. Horses the size of small buildings. The air around them felt heavier, like gravity got a little more serious in their vicinity. Behind them, 50 citizen cavalry in red forged and cold iron armor, lances pointing skyward like a steel forest, sabers sheathed but ready. Every single one a bronze rank veteran who'd killed trolls and orcs in the last week. And in the center of this formation, my carriage. The same ridiculous gold-trimmed rolling palace my family sent me off in. Still absurdly luxurious. Still radiating. I have more money than taste, energy. But now, surrounded by an escort that made it look less like a rich kid's toy and more like an emperor's war chariot. I stepped out of the castle and paused at the carriage door. My hand touched the Snow Wolf crest on the side. Cold metal, familiar shape. And for a moment, I thought about my family. The Snow Wolf clan. Fierce, cunning, ruthless, but fiercely protective of their own. Dad and my brothers gave me a hard time about my weak talent, sure. But I understand now that those harsh words weren't rejection. They were worry. They were a family of wolves trying to make sure their smallest pup could survive in a world that eats the weak. Savage on the outside, warm on the inside. That's why the Windsors have lasted 1,000 years and only gotten stronger. They don't abandon their blood. They sharpen it. Well, this particular piece of Windsor blood just sharpened itself into a black iron knight with a private army and a territory. Hope that meets expectations, Dad. My lord, please board. The steward opened the carriage door. Warm air rushed out. I climbed in. Door shut. Cozy fur cushions, temperature-regulated interior, perfect soundproofing. The golden wolf sculptures on the armrests felt different now, not like symbols of borrowed luxury, but reminders of where I came from. Through the crystal window, I watched my knights standing in formation. My formation, my army, built from nothing in 2 weeks with a cheat system, a lot of gold, and an unhealthy amount of determination. Lane mounted up at the front. Right arm raised. Held. Then chopped down. The war horn screamed. 55 horses launched forward simultaneously. The thunder of iron hooves on frozen earth was like a heartbeat the size of the world. 5 golden juggernauts leading the charge. 50 bronze warriors flanking the carriage. A trail of snow dust rising behind us like a white dragon chasing our tail. We blasted through the castle gates and onto the southern highway, the road to Snow Wolf territory, maintained and cleared by my own Rether Guard patrols. Every mile taking me closer to home. I leaned back against the snow bear fur, watching the frozen wastes blur past the window. The same landscape I'd traveled through weeks ago, terrified and uncertain, heading into the unknown with borrowed everything. Now I was heading the other direction, going home. not as the baby of the family begging for scraps. As a lord, with soldiers, with a territory, with power. Last time, my family loaded me up like a care package because they were worried I'd starve. This time, I'm walking through that door and showing them what their investment bought. Ron Windsor left Snow Wolf territory as a charity case. Ron Windsor is coming back as a force of nature. And I still need those damn administrators. But at least now I can ask for them while looking like someone who deserves them. Presentation matters, people. Always roll up with the gold rank escort. A few days of riding later, the scenery started changing. Less frozen wasteland, more actual civilization. The snow got thinner. Green bushes appeared. The air felt slightly less like it was trying to murder my lungs. Then I saw it on the horizon, Frostwolf City, my family's capital. And let me tell you, after spending weeks in a beat-up frontier castle surrounded by frozen mud, seeing this place again hit different. This city is absurd. Walls made of gray granite, dozens of meters high, covered in ancient battle scars and glowing defensive runes that pulse with blue energy like the whole structure has a heartbeat. Arrow towers and magic towers everywhere, tips flickering with arcane light. The place looks less like a city and more like a mountain that decided to become a fortress. And busy. Even in winter, the main road was packed with merchant caravans, armed escorts, traders hauling goods from everywhere. This is what 1,000 years of wealth and military power looks like. A city that never sleeps because there's too much money to count. We rolled up to the gates with 5 gold-rank cataphracts in front and 50 bronze cavalry behind. In most places, this would cause mass panic. In Frostwolf City, the guards barely raised an eyebrow. This is a city where legendary warriors walk past you on the way to buy bread. My escort was impressive, but not unusual here. Humbling, honestly. The gate guards checked us through efficiently, professional, cold, disciplined. Classic Snow Wolf. But I noticed the officer's eyes lingering on my 5 cataphracts a beat too long. He remembered what I left with a month ago, and what I came back with was noticeably different. His expression said, "What happened to you out there?" Without his mouth opening. Through the gates. Wide stone streets, spotlessly clean even in winter. Stone buildings lining both sides. Shops, taverns, blacksmiths, merchant guilds. The smell of fresh bread and hot iron mixing with horse sweat and winter air. People bundled in furs, moving fast, living their lives in a city that's been thriving for a millennium. Snow Wolf patrols everywhere. Armored, sharp-eyed, moving in perfect formation. The occasional fancy-robed mage or noble strutting around like they own the street. This city has layers. Wealth, power, magic, military, all stacked on top of each other like a very expensive, very dangerous cake. The closer we got to the center, the bigger and grander everything became. Until we reached the inner city wall, even more massive gray stone, flying the Windsor family banner. A silver wolf howling in a blizzard. My family crest. My blood. Lane rode ahead to show my identity badge to the inner gate commander. The officer checked it carefully, then looked past Lane at our formation. His eyes stopped on the 5 cataphracts and stayed there. The expression on his face was priceless, a mixture of respect, disbelief, and the 5th son brought what back with him. Gates opened. We rolled through, past a courtyard decorated with snow pines and ice crystal sculptures. We stopped in front of Snow Wolf Manor, the family estate. A building that makes my Kangland castle look like a garden shed. The old butler was already waiting outside with a retinue of servants. When he saw me step out of the carriage, his eyes widened for just a moment. Surprise, then warmth. 5th young master. Welcome home. The Earl is expecting you in his study. Behind me, Lane and the cataphracts dismounted and formed up like golden statues. 5 gold-rank auras pressing down on the courtyard air. The servants trying very hard to act normal while standing next to beings that could level a city block. Take me to him, I said. Calm. Steady. Like I'd done this 1,000 times. But let me tell you about the place I was walking into, because Snow Wolf Fortress deserves its own introduction. This isn't a castle. This is a monument. Built from ashen obsidian, stone harder than steel, mined from the deepest shafts in the north. Walls so thick and tall they block out the sky. Every surface covered in 1,000-year-old defensive runes that glow blue and pulse like living veins. The entire fortress is wrapped in a magical energy net that's been reinforced by generations of family mages. 6 massive war magic towers ring the outer perimeter, each one a level 6 Magus-grade combat installation. Mithril alloy and obsidian construction, surfaces crawling with arcane circuits, tips crowned with elemental core crystals that drink ambient magic around the clock. The space near the towers actually warps from the magic density. Anything unauthorized that approaches gets hit with enough firepower to erase it from existence. But the real flex? The 2 legendary towers at the castle's heart. Tower 1, Frostmoon Tower, my mother's. Slender, elegant, looks like it was carved from solidified moonlight. Silver-white glow, star-shaped runes, surrounded by a field of frozen air particles that refract sunlight into rainbow dust. Beautiful and absolutely terrifying. This tower represents Mom's power. She's a half-step Magus Lord, 1 step below the legendary tier. She could freeze your soul and make it look artistic. Tower 2, Crown of Eternal Winter, my grandmother's. Massive, imposing, built from deep blue magic crystal stone coated in frost that never melts. The top isn't a spire. It's a phantom ice crown made of pure cold magic energy, blazing blue at night, visible for miles. The tower literally changes the weather around it. It snows within 100 meters, even in summer. The pressure field makes your soul shiver. Grandma is a Grand Magus, the undisputed magical peak of the entire Northern Kingdom. Her tower isn't just a home, it's a strategic weapon. She's the reason nobody with half a brain has attacked Snow Wolf territory in living memory. 2 legendary towers. 2 women at the absolute summit of magical power. My mom and my grandma. The real bosses of this family, if we're being honest. So yeah, this is what I come from. A fortress wrapped in millennium-old magic, guarded by 6 war towers, crowned by 2 legendary mage queens, and staffed by an army that makes most kingdoms nervous. And somehow, the kid from this family was considered the disappointing one. Well, not anymore. I walked through those doors with 55 killers at my back, a territory under my belt, and black iron power in my veins. Time to show Dad what his weakest son built in 30 days. I stood outside Dad's study door, and my palms were sweating. Look, I can face goblin hordes. I can order cavalry charges. I can casually spend thousands of gold coins without blinking. But standing in front of this specific door, my inner 16-year-old was screaming. Because this isn't just any door. This is the door to Eamon Windsor's office. My father, the Snow Wolf Earl. And every memory this body has of walking through it involves being stared at with cold disappointment by a man who could crush buildings with his aura. I wiped my hands on my pants. Subtle. Cool. Totally not nervous. 3 knocks. Father. I'm home. Silence. The kind of silence that weighs more than actual objects. Come in. 2 words. That's all. But his voice, deep, massive, vibrating with a power that punched through the solid oak door and grabbed my soul by the collar. Like thunder had learned to speak. Like a glacier had opinions. I pushed the door open. Hump. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff during a hurricane. Except the hurricane is made of pure authority and the cliff is your self-confidence. Dad's aura hit me like a physical wall. The air turned into syrup. Every breath felt like swallowing a brick. My heart seized. My brand new black iron battle aura seed, the one I'd been so proud of yesterday, flickered like a birthday candle in a typhoon. Almost went out. Sky Knight. 7th tier. My father is a Sky Knight. Let me put this in perspective. I just broke through to Black Iron, Tier 2. My gold rank cataphracts, the ones who deleted 2 orc bosses in 15 seconds, are Tier 5. Dad is Tier 7. He's not even trying. He's just sitting there doing paperwork, and his natural ambient pressure is enough to make low-rank knights mentally collapse. This is the man I need to ask for administrative staff. While my knees are trying to buckle. Cool. Very cool. No pressure. Except literally all the pressure, pressing down on every cell in my body from a being who exists on a fundamentally different level of reality than me. The study itself was less, office, and more, war room crossed with a museum of intimidation, massive space. High ceiling with crystal magic chandeliers. And dominating the main wall, a gigantic strategic map of the entire north, made from monster leather, marked with magic ink symbols that actually moved. Mountains, rivers, fortresses, troop positions, monster activity zones, all updating in real time. Beneath the map, two actual blood-stained knight longswords crossed against the wall. Not decorations. Weapons. With worn leather grips and family crests that had seen real war. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves everywhere, filled not with novels, but with military theory, historical battle analyses, kingdom law codes, monster encyclopedias, and sealed intelligence files. Some shelves held glowing mineral samples and preserved magical specimens. This wasn't a nobleman's library. It was a general's brain made physical. And behind the massive obsidian desk, Dad, Eamon Windsor, wearing a tailored dark gray nobleman's outfit with a short cape made from snow wolf king fur draped over his shoulders. Didn't even look up. Just kept writing notes on whatever document was in front of him with a mithril pen inlaid with tiny sapphires. Casual. Unbothered. As if his youngest son hadn't just walked in with 5 gold-rank knights parked in his courtyard. But his presence. Good Lord, his presence. He wasn't big. Not physically imposing like Big Bro Carlos. But sitting behind that desk, he was the gravitational center of the entire room. The fireplace flames were literally shorter near him, pressed down by invisible force. The light seemed to bend toward him slightly, like even photons knew who was in charge. Sky Knight domain pressure. He doesn't need to activate it. He doesn't need to flex. His existence is the flex. The air around him carried this impossible combination of vast sky above and crushing weight below, like standing at the bottom of an ocean that reaches into the clouds. Every instinct in my body screamed run. My black iron aura seed was vibrating in panic. My legs wanted to buckle. My lungs wanted to stop. But I didn't move. I clenched my jaw so hard my teeth creaked, pulled every shred of willpower into my spine, straightened my back, stood there, 3 steps from the desk, and held. Because I'm not the old Ron anymore. I'm not the talentless 5th son shuffling in with his head down. I'm a lord. I have a territory. I have an army. I have a system. I killed a gold-rank troll chief. Well, my guys did, but it's my army so it counts. I broke through to black iron through sheer empire-building strategy. I will not buckle in front of my own father, even if my body really, really wants to. So I stood there, silent, waiting, spine straight, eyes forward, knees locked through pure stubbornness. Dad kept writing. The fire crackled. My heartbeat was so loud I was sure he could hear it. The most powerful man I've ever stood in front of, separated from me by 3 steps, and an obsidian desk, and approximately 5 tiers of martial arts superiority. Hi, Dad. Your disappointing son is home. And he brought homework. The study was silent except for Dad's pen scratching on parchment and the fireplace whimpering. Yes, whimpering, under his aura. The fire was literally too scared to crackle properly. He finished writing, put the pen down, and looked up at me. If you've ever had a parent give you the look, multiply that by about 10,000. His ice blue eyes hit me like twin lasers from orbit. Not just seeing me, scanning me. Body, soul, power level, intentions, breakfast preferences, probably my credit score too. I felt completely naked. Transparent. Like a glass action figure standing in front of a god. No, welcome home, son. No, missed you, no hug. Just pure, clinical evaluation from a being who exists on a plane of reality I can barely comprehend. The northern winds, he said, each word landing on my chest like a sledgehammer wrapped in frost. Haven't broken you, it seems. He watched me standing there, shaking, pale, jaw clenched hard enough to crack walnuts, refusing to buckle under the pressure of a 7th-tier Sky Knight's passive aura. My black iron seed was having a seizure inside my chest. Every cell in my body was screaming kneel. And I didn't. Then something incredible happened. The ice on Dad's face melted. The soul-crushing pressure vanished like someone flipped a switch. 1 second I was drowning in the aura of an apex predator. Next second, nothing. Warm room. Crackling fire. Normal gravity. Ha ha ha. Dad exploded with laughter. Full volume. Room shaking. Ceiling rattling belly laughs. His eyes went from frozen tundra to beaming pride in about half a second. The transformation was so sudden it gave me whiplash. Good. Good. He slammed the desk, vaulted around it. This man is in his 50s and moves like a panther, and marched right up to me. Those ice blue eyes were practically sparkling now, scanning me up and down like I was the best birthday present he'd ever received. That's my wolf pup. 1 month. 1 month. You planted your flag in that frozen hellhole, killed trolls and orcs, and broke through to black iron. Good. Very good. His massive hand slammed onto my shoulder. I nearly ate the floor. But the force behind it wasn't punishment. It was pure, concentrated fatherly pride channeled through the palm of a man who could bench press a castle. Here's what I learned later. Dad knew everything. The 10 mysterious gold-rank knights? He'd heard. The 10,000 settlers appearing from nowhere? He'd heard. The rapid military buildup, the monster exterminations, all of it, reported through secret channels. And he never asked how. Because in this family, everyone has their secrets and lucky breaks. What matters isn't where the power came from. It's what you do with it. Dad saw a son who left as a zero-talent nobody and came back a month later as a territorial lord with an army. That's all he needed to know. Questions would come later. Or never. He's a Windsor. Windsors don't interrogate their own blood. They watch, evaluate, and decide if you're a wolf or a sheep. Today, I passed. Phew. The second the pressure lifted, I gasped like a drowning man hitting air. Sweat beading on my temples. Legs slightly wobbly. But through it all, and I couldn't help it, I was grinning. A big, dumb, little kid grin. Because yeah, I'm technically a 30-something reincarnator with a cheat system and a private army. But hearing my dad say, "Good," with that look in his eyes, that hit different. That hit the 16-year-old part of me that spent his whole childhood watching his brothers earn praise while he got size. The part that just wanted Dad to be proud. "Father, I'm home. You've done well." Another shoulder slap. I braced this time. "Now cut the crap, brat. You didn't ride all this way with a gold-rank escort just to see my handsome face. What do you need? Spit it out. Don't play games with me. I can tell what you're about to dump just from the way you wiggle your ass." Charming as always, Dad. Nothing gets past you. I scratched my head and dropped all pretense. Okay, here's the deal. Kangland Domain is up and running. Territory secured. Army built. Monsters dead. But I'm drowning in everything else. I started counting on my fingers. First, people. 20,000 sounds like a lot, but I need to clear farmland, mine ore, build roads, construct walls. It's not enough. I need to buy a massive batch of serfs. As many as possible. Spring farming alone needs way more hands. Second, food. Winter reserves and spring seed grain. Huge shortfall. What I produce and loot doesn't come close to covering 20,000 people plus a military. Third, and this is the one killing me. I put on my most pathetic face. I have 0 administrators. Not one. Every single dispute, tax calculation, building permit, and supply request lands on my desk. I'm doing everything myself. I need officials, administrative officers, governance specialists, tax experts, people who can actually run a territory so I don't die of paperwork poisoning. I clasp my hands together in maximum begging position. So, could you maybe lend me some talent? Please, HMH. Dad glared at me with the force of a disappointed deity. You walk in here and immediately ask for administrators, governors, and tax officials? All top-tier ones. You think qualified bureaucrats grow on trees. I spend a whole year training a handful of sharp ones, and you want to waltz in and take them? Well, Snow Wolf Academy. I played my trump card with a hopeful grin. Grandpa's elite training institution. Best talent pipeline in the North. Surely you can spare a few graduates? It won't even make a dent. Bull, Dad laughed yelled. Talent is precious everywhere. Won't make a dent my ass. You think if I hand you a team today, the Branch family elders won't be at your grandfather's door tomorrow, crying that I'm playing favorites with my youngest? Saying I'm gutting the family to spoil one brat. I deflated instantly. Right. Family politics. The one enemy my system can't solve. The Windsor clan isn't just Dad's nuclear family. It's a massive extended network of branch houses, all watching each other like hawks, all ready to complain the second someone gets preferential treatment. I'd forgotten that part. Oops. Dad stared at me with that look. The one that says, you're smart enough to build an army but dumb enough to forget basic family dynamics. And I don't know whether to be proud or concerned. Both, Dad. The answer is both. Dad watched me squirm for about 3 seconds, then cracked up. Relax. I was messing with you. Look at your face. He walked back to his desk, opened a drawer, and tossed me a sealed parchment scroll like it was junk mail. Here. Already prepared. Names of 12 people, handpicked from Snow Wolf Academy's best graduates, and a few veteran officials willing to relocate north. Administration, governance, Taxation, full package. Go find head butler old John. He'll take you to collect them. I caught the scroll and nearly cried with happiness. He already had them ready. This beautiful, terrifying, Sky Knight-level troll of a father had been preparing my administrative team before I even asked. He knew I'd come crawling back for help. He just wanted to watch me beg first, because apparently psychological warfare is how this family shows love. Thank you, father. Calm down. You look ridiculous. He was trying to scowl, but his eyes were doing that warm, crinkly thing that dads do when they're secretly thrilled. As for food, don't come crying to me. Go find your brother Fletcher. That kid's sitting on enough grain to feed the entire Snow Wolf family through a 5-year war. He's the biggest grain merchant in the north, backed by our family and your grandfather, the Grand Duke. His warehouses make my castle look small. Yes, sir, Fletcher. Third bro. The walking Costco. Already on my list. Now get out of my study. Dad waved me off like a fly. Go see your mother. She's been worrying about you nonstop. And his tone shifted. Heavier. More careful. Make time to pay respects to your grandfather. I straightened up. Grandfather. The family's ultimate weapon. Don't blame the old man for not sending gifts when you left, Dad said quietly. He's the anchor of the entire Snow Wolf clan. Every move he makes is watched by the royal family, other noble houses, branch families, everyone. Even the tiniest show of favoritism could trigger political chaos. His position demands absolute neutrality. He has to stand above it all. I nodded seriously. I understand, father. And I did. Grandfather isn't just strong. He's an epic tier peak knight. Only 100-something years old, which for someone at his level means prime of life. The kingdom's royals and every major power fear him, because he could break through to legendary tier at any moment. If that happens, he'd be the first legendary knight outside the royal family and the 5 founding dukes in the kingdom's entire history. That kind of potential makes you the most watched, most analyzed, most politically constrained person alive. He can't just hand his favorite grandson a care package. Not without every branch family elder filing complaints and every rival house reading signals into it. Go on, Dad smiled. Warm this time. Real. I bowed, clutched my precious scroll of 12 administrators like it was made of diamonds, and left the study with my heart full and my to-do list shrinking. Next stop, Mom. I walked deeper into the castle toward the Frost Moon Tower, Mom's personal magic sanctum. The closer I got, the more the air changed. Clean. Cold. But not the hostile cold of the northern wastes. More like the refreshing chill of a mountain spring. Ice element magic saturating every molecule. The tower door, made of glowing magical crystal with starry rune patterns flowing across its surface, opened by itself as I approached. It sensed me, because of course my mother's tower has family recognition built into its security system. Inside, a completely different world. Warm air with a hint of flowers. The space was way bigger than the outside suggested. Spatial folding magic, obviously. Silver moon pattern carpets. Walls with a jade-like glow. The ceiling wasn't even solid. It was made of flowing liquid moonlight energy, bathing everything in soft, dreamy light. Magical plants with ice-blue flowers bloomed in the corners, their petals dusted with tiny diamond-like frost crystals. Cold plum blossom fragrance drifting everywhere. This wasn't a mage tower. This was a spa designed by an ice goddess. Ron? A voice like moonlight on snow floated down from the spiral staircase. Mom descended. No fancy court dress, just a simple, elegant moon-white mage robe embroidered with silver stars and ice flowers. Her face barely showed her age. Those deep, calm eyes held the weight of decades of magical study. Silver-white hair flowing loose over her shoulders, with actual tiny ice crystals twinkling at the tips. She radiated the quiet, immense power of a half-step Magus Lord, warm but absolutely impossible to ignore. Then she saw me, and those cool, composed eyes melted, instantly, like watching an ice sculpture turn into sunshine. Mother, I practically jogged over. And for the first time since arriving at this fortress full of sky knights and epic warriors and political minefields, I let my guard down completely. In front of Mom, I wasn't a lord. I wasn't a strategist. I wasn't a transmigrator running a war economy. I was just her kid. She came down the last step and reached up to touch my face. Her fingertips were cool and impossibly gentle. You've gotten thinner. And darker. A tiny frown of concern, but her eyes were shining with pride. The northern winds haven't dulled your edge, though. If anything, you've grown sharper. She'd already sensed my black iron breakthrough. Of course she had. She's a half-step Magus Lord. She probably detected the change in my aura before I even walked through her tower door. I'm sorry for worrying you, Mother. I meant it. Not as a formality. Genuinely. This woman dropped 200,000 gold coins on me without blinking, arranged military backup through Uncle Andre, and probably spent every night since I left scanning the northern horizon with her magic, making sure her baby was alive. Dad shows love through tests and shoulder slaps that could dislocate joints. Mom shows love through everything else. Standing there in her moonlit tower, her cool fingers on my cheek, smelling winter flowers, I felt something I hadn't felt since arriving in this world. Home. Actual, real, no strings attached home. For about 10 seconds, I wasn't a lord or a soldier or a chess player. I was just a son who missed his mom. Then I remembered I needed to ask her for money too, and the moment got slightly more complicated. But that's a problem for 5 minutes from now. Mom sat me down in the coziest corner of her tower, snow-bear fur chairs, a tea table carved from a single block of iced jade, and tea that was definitely not normal tea. One sip and my entire body's fatigue evaporated like it was scared of the flavor. Cold plum blossom taste with a mysterious warmth that went straight to my bones. Mage tea. Don't ask me how it works. Magic. Your father told me everything, Mom said, pushing my cup closer. You've done wonderfully. Cleared threats, expanded territory, built a remarkable force. She didn't ask about the 10 gold rank mystery knights. Didn't probe. Just let that knowing look in her eyes say, I see everything, and I'm choosing not to interrogate you. Half-step Magus Lord energy. She could probably scan my entire territory from here if she wanted to. What do you need, dear? I laid it all out. Dad's handling administrators, 12 people, already prepared. Food goes through Fletcher. But population, I need a lot of serfs, fast, and I don't have the connections to source thousands of people on short notice. Mom smiled. The kind of smile that says, watch me solve your problem before you finish describing it. Leave the serfs to me. Your grandfather just finished suppressing a rebellion. Thousands of prisoners and displaced people, nowhere to put them. I'll send word. He can redirect at least 5,000 directly to Kanglan Domain. Mixed quality, but reliable source, no screening needed. Transport. My Frost Moon Trading Company's caravans will handle delivery. 5,000 people. Delivered. For free. By Mom's personal merchant fleet. I shot out of my chair and bowed so deep I almost touched my knees. Thank you, Mother. Silly boy. Sit down. She waved me off like I was being dramatic, which I was. But 5,000 free settlers deserve some drama. Remember, no matter where you are or what you face, your mother will always be your strongest support. She sipped her tea, gazed out at the falling snow, and added, with a softness that had razor blades hidden inside it, my child is building an empire on the frontier. The least his mother can do is clear a few obstacles. A few thousand serfs? Barely worth mentioning. And that's when I truly felt it. Beneath the gentle voice and the flower-scented tower and the moonlit everything, my mother is a weapon. A half-step Magus Lord who runs a private trading company, commands a legendary magic tower, and can casually rearrange 5,000 human lives with a finger flick and a telepathic message. The soft exterior is real. So is the iron underneath. We talked for a long time after that. She asked about everything, daily life, battles, territory building, what I ate, whether I was sleeping enough. Mom questions. The kind that make you feel like a kid again, no matter how many orcs you've killed. Sitting in that warm tower, drinking impossible tea, listening to my mother's gentle voice while snow fell outside the windows, I let go. Fully. All the tension, the planning, the constant vigilance of running a frontier territory. For 1 hour, I was just her son. And it was the best hour I'd had since reincarnating. Then I left, and everything got heavy again. Because my next visit was to grandfather, Noel Windsor, the family's ultimate existence. The man, even dad, a sky knight, treats with reverence. His quarters weren't some fancy bedroom. They were in the deepest, most restricted section of Snow Wolf Fortress, the Hall of Ancestors. Getting there required walking a long, silent corridor lined with portraits of dead Windsor heroes and their trophy weapons. The air got heavier with every step. My black iron aura? A birthday candle in a hurricane. Again, The door at the end was made from a single slab of star meteorite iron. No decorations except one deep claw mark, like something enormous had tried to tear it open, and a single, simple snow wolf relief. Understated. Terrifying. 2 guards flanked the door. Dark gold runic heavy armor. Auras so deep and murky they felt like standing next to a black hole. Snow Wolf Imperial Guard, the family's absolute elite. They scanned me with eyes like frozen scalpels, confirmed I was allowed, and let me pass without a word. The door slid open silently. Ancient air rushed out, the smell of deep time, like walking into a cave that had been sealed since the world was young. The Hall of Ancestors was vast. Ceiling so high it felt like looking at a night sky. Black basalt floor polished to a mirror. Dim blue magical crystals on the walls providing just enough light to make the whole space look like a glacier under moonlight. At the far end, not a throne. A massive weapon rack, made from some unknown black metal. And on it, scattered in seemingly casual arrangement, dozens of weapons. A cracked great axe still radiating killing intent. A crystal greatsword flowing with ice blue light. A spear wrapped in dark crimson lightning patterns. An ancient tower shield covered in the scars of 1,000 battles. Every single weapon hummed with terrifying energy. Each one was a legendary artifact that had probably ended wars and killed kings. And grandfather just left them on a rack, like coats on hooks. This wasn't a bedroom or a study. This was a shrine to violence, history, and the absolute pinnacle of martial power that one family had accumulated over 1,000 years. And somewhere in this hall, the strongest man in the entire Snow Wolf dynasty was waiting for me. My black iron aura seed was already trembling. My palms were already wet. Dad was scary. Grandfather was something else entirely. Epic tier peak knight. Over 100 years old, but in his absolute prime. So powerful that the royal family stays awake at night worrying about him. Because any day now, he could break through to legendary. A tier so rare that only founding duke bloodlines and royals have ever reached it. I straightened my back, swallowed hard, and walked deeper into the hall. Time to meet the real boss of this family. There he was, standing with his back to me, in front of a weapon rack that looked like a museum of things that have killed legendary creatures. My grandfather, Noel Windsor. And let me tell you, if Dad's aura was a hurricane, grandfather's was the ocean. Not crashing waves, not dramatic storms. Just infinite depth, quiet, ancient, absolutely, fundamentally incomprehensible. He wasn't even big. Thin, actually, wearing a faded gray linen training outfit that looked like it had been washed 1,000 times. Silver white hair hanging loose. Just standing there like a statue. But looking at his back made my soul want to crawl under a rock and hide. This wasn't pressure like Dad's Sky Knight aura. This was something older, purer, like staring at the concept of power itself. He didn't feel like a person. He felt like a piece of the universe had decided to stand upright and pretend to be human. A walking mountain. A breathing history book. A quiet apocalypse choosing not to happen. My black iron aura seed? It didn't tremble. It surrendered. Just went limp inside me like it was playing dead, hoping the predator wouldn't notice. Grandfather. I forced the word out through a throat that wanted to seal shut, bowed as deep as the formal family greeting required, and prayed my legs wouldn't give out. He turned around. His face wasn't old. That was the weird part. Chiseled jawline, healthy tint skin, only a few deep lines around the eyes and mouth. Less, elderly patriarch, and more, ageless warrior who's been fighting since before your country existed. Over 100 years old, and he looked 50. Epic tier longevity is no joke. But his eyes, dear God, his eyes. Imagine looking into a hole in reality. That's what they were. Deep as the end of the universe. Still as ice that's been frozen since the world began. Yet somehow containing enough power to rip the sky apart and boil mountains into soup. When they landed on me, I felt everything I'd ever been. Every thought, every secret, every hidden system panel. Get x-rayed, cataloged, and filed in about half a second. I have literally never felt more seen in either of my lives. Ron, his voice wasn't loud, slightly hoarse, even. But every syllable vibrated directly inside my soul like a tuning fork made of law itself. You went to the border. Not a question. A statement. He already knew. Yes, grandfather. I'm developing Kangland Domain. Kangland Domain. He repeated it like testing the weight of a pebble. Frozen wasteland. Monsters everywhere. Trolls, orcs, goblins. And deeper things, sleeping. You killed the trolls. Slaughtered the orc tribe. Again, statements. Not impressed. Not angry. Just acknowledging facts with the enthusiasm of someone reading a grocery list. Yes, using power that appeared suddenly. I see. Down. My spine. His gaze went through me. Past my body. Past my brain. I swear it landed directly on the system itself. That invisible panel floating in my consciousness that only I should be able to perceive. For one horrible second, I was absolutely certain this man could see it. But he didn't ask. Didn't press. Just looked away. Like my biggest secret was a mild curiosity barely worth acknowledging. Power is power. Used rightly, it is righteous. Used wrongly, it is evil. If you can control it, use it to expand territory and protect your people. That is your ability. My heart hammered. He knows something is weird about me, and he's choosing to let it go. Not because he doesn't care, because he doesn't need to care. At his level, my little secrets are probably about as threatening as a hamster with a knife. Then his voice dropped 10 degrees. But frontier development is not a game. Each word hit like a frozen brick. Gold rank? That is merely the entrance fee. What you killed were insignificant pests. The real threats have not yet awakened. Or have not yet arrived. Those ancient eyes locked onto me again. A needlepoint of sharpness hidden in the cosmic stillness. Your foundation is shallow. Your strength is laughable. Today's victory is a candle in a gale. Do not let small profits blind your eyes. And do not die too early. No praise. No, well done. No pat on the back. Just a bucket of ice water dumped on every ounce of confidence I'd built over the last month. The gold rank cataphracts I was so proud of? Insignificant pests, to him. My territory victories? Small profits. My black iron breakthrough? Not even worth mentioning. In the eyes of an epic peak knight who could solo entire armies, everything I'd accomplished was a child's first finger painting. And yet, buried under all that ice and contempt, I heard it. Faint as a heartbeat under snow. Something that wasn't quite warmth, but was definitely investment. Don't die too early. That wasn't just a warning. That was a command. From a man who doesn't waste words on things he doesn't care about. He wouldn't bother telling me to survive if he'd already written me off. That sentence, cold, brutal, completely devoid of comfort, was grandfather's version of, I'm watching you, and I expect you to become something. I will remember your teachings, grandfather. I bowed again. Deeper this time. Meaning every millimeter. He looked at me. Into me. Those bottomless eyes flickered. Just once, so fast I almost missed it, with something. Recognition? Approval? A fraction of a degree less indifference? Then he turned away. Back to his weapons. Back to silence. Back to being a piece of eternity pretending to be furniture. Audience over. I backed out slowly. Step by step. Eyes down. Not turning around until I was past the threshold. The meteorite iron door sealed shut behind me. I collapsed against the corridor wall. My entire back was drenched in cold sweat. Heart going like a machine gun. Legs made of wet paper. I stood there gasping for a full minute, staring at the ceiling, processing what just happened. My father is a sky knight. He scared me. My grandfather is an epic peak knight one step from legendary. He made me feel like I didn't exist. And somewhere in that terrifying encounter, he gave me the coldest, most brutal motivational speech I've ever received. Everything you've done is nothing. Everything you've fought is nothing. The real dangers are still out there. Get stronger or die. Thanks, Grandpa. Very inspiring. I'll be having nightmares about your eyes for the next month. But he's right. Gold-ranked cataphracts feel invincible in my little corner of the frontier. In the bigger picture, they're mid-tier at best. The system's troop, trees go higher. My personal level needs to climb much faster. And whatever's lurking in the deep north, the things grandfather called, not yet awakened, I need to be ready. I clenched my fists. The fire in my chest burned hotter than ever. Kangland Domain's rise hasn't even started yet. And now I have a new goal beyond building an empire. Get strong enough that next time I stand in that hall, grandfather's eyes show something other than indifference. Challenge. Freaking. Accepted. Half a month at Snow Wolf territory. I moved like a man possessed, checking boxes off my list at maximum speed. Box 1, Administrators. Old John the head butler had all 12 people ready and waiting, just like Dad promised. What a lineup. A mix of fresh-faced academy graduates with fire in their eyes and grizzled veteran bureaucrats who'd spent decades in the trenches of governmental paperwork. The young ones had ambition. The old ones had, I've seen every possible way a tax system can go wrong, energy. Perfect combo. I met with them briefly. No long speeches. No inspirational monologues. Just, here's what Kangland Domain looks like. Here's what I need. You leave today, and because I'm not about to let my precious paper pushers get eaten by wolves on the road, I assigned them an escort that was frankly ridiculous for protecting 12 nerds, 2 gold-rank cataphracts, and 20 bronze cavalry. That's enough military force to conquer a small barony, and I'm using it to babysit accountants. When that convoy rolled out of the city gates, 2 glowing golden war gods leading a column of armored knights surrounding a cluster of confused-looking bureaucrats, people stared. I watched from the wall until they disappeared up the northern road and felt an enormous weight lift off my shoulders. No more irrigation disputes on MY desk. Ever again. Box 2 food. I marched straight to Third Brother Fletcher's commercial headquarters. This place was insane. It occupied an entire district of the business quarter. Warehouses everywhere. Grain wagons rolling in and out like an ant colony. The air smelled like dried wheat and money. Fletcher bear hugged me the second I walked in and nearly broke my spine. Little 5. Heard you've been busy up north. Killed trolls. Wiped out orcs. That's my brother. Then he dragged me into his office, a room buried under ledgers and trade maps, and got straight to business. How much food do you need? 30,000 people. 6 months of rations. Heartiest, most calorie-dense grain mix you've got. Plus salt. Plus horse feed. Fletcher's eyebrows shot up. 30,000 for 6 months? You greedy little. Then he grinned wider than I'd ever seen. I love it. You're going big. Done. I'll give you this year's fresh northern black rye, frost oats, highland chickpeas. All the stuff that keeps you full and alive in freezing temperatures. Best mineral salt. Premium pressed bean cake and dried alfalfa for the horses. But then he dropped the real bombshell. Little 5. I'm opening a Frost Wolf Trading Company branch office directly in your Kangland town. My brain short-circuited. From now on, grain, salt, iron, cloth, whatever. You just walk into the branch and take it. Price? He leaned in with the grin of a man who's about to change your life. Cost price. Family doesn't profit off family. Run a tab. Pay me back when your territory's on its feet. Cost. Price. Normal market rate for grain in the north, 6 to 8 gold per ton. What Fletcher was offering me. Basically production cost plus shipping, maybe 2 to 4 gold per ton. He just cut my food expenses in half. Permanently. With an open credit line. This wasn't just a discount. This was an economic lifeline. A permanent supply chain at prices that would make other frontier lords weep with jealousy. 3 bro. I don't know what to. Shut up and succeed. He slapped my back hard enough to leave a handprint. Build that territory up. The further north your roads go, the further north MY trade routes go. We both win. The man's a genius. He's not just helping his brother. He's investing in a future trade corridor into untapped northern territory. Businessman brain and brotherly love. Fletcher might be the scariest Windsor of all. Within days, a massive wagon train loaded with grain, salt, and horse feed rolled out of Snow Wolf City under Fletcher's armed merchant escort. Watching that convoy stretch toward the horizon, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Security. My people wouldn't starve. That alone was worth the trip. Box 3. Population. While I was running around the city, Mom was already executing her part of the plan. From the Frost Moon Tower, she sent a magical long-distance message straight to Grandfather, the Frost Raven Grand Duke. Simple, clear, impossible to refuse. Your grandson needs workers. You just finished a war. You have thousands of prisoners with nowhere to go. Send them. The Grand Duke, who commands one of the most feared military forces in the kingdom, who makes grown men tremble by clearing his throat, heard his talented daughter's request and immediately said yes. Because even continental-scale warlords have a soft spot for their kids. His war machine pivoted from combat mode to logistics mode in days. 5,000 people, captured enemy combatants, displaced refugees, contract laborers, organized into marching columns. Escorted by the elite Grey Falcon Infantry Regiment. Each column assigned guides and doctors for the long trek through frozen wilderness. In the center, A special magically heated wagon carrying a Frost Raven family envoy holding Mom's personal Frost Moon crest token, a magical badge that basically says, "These people belong to my son, touch them, and my half-step Magus Lord daughter will freeze your entire bloodline." This gray river of humanity, 5,000 strong, stretching for miles, marched north under Frost Raven banners, through snow and wind, toward Kangland Domain. Back at base, Martin had already gotten Mom's advance message. The man was on it. Cleared land near the main road. Built emergency shelters. Stockpiled food and firewood. When the column appeared on the horizon, the whole camp erupted. "They're here. Lady Windsor's reinforcements have arrived." Martin's Rether Guard soldiers lined up in 2 corridors at the camp entrance. Armored, disciplined, imposing. Not to threaten the newcomers, but to show them, this territory has order. This territory has strength. You're safe here. The Frost Raven envoy dismounted, presented the Frost Moon token, completed the formal handover. Martin accepted it with deep respect. 5,000 pairs of hands. 5,000 backs that could dig mines, clear fields, build walls, and farm food. The new arrivals shuffled into camp, exhausted, scared, confused. But the soldiers treated them firmly and fairly. Registered, counted, given a spot in a shelter. And most importantly, a hot bowl of thick soup with meat and vegetables. You could see the moment it hit them. Shivering, hopeless people wrapping frozen fingers around a warm bowl, taking that first sip and realizing, maybe this place won't kill us. Maybe this lord isn't a monster. Maybe we'll survive. 5,000 new citizens. Delivered by Mom's invisible hand across hundreds of miles of frozen territory, organized by a duke's military infrastructure, received by Martin's emergency camp system, and funded by, well, family love and strategic self-interest in roughly equal measure. Total haul from this trip home, 12 elite administrators, yen route. 6 months of food for 30,000 people, shipping. A permanent cost-price supply chain through Fletcher's Trading Company, established. 5,000 new settlers, arrived. Dad's approval, obtained. Mom's bottomless support, confirmed. Grandfather's terrifying warning, permanently burned into my soul. I came home as a lord asking for help. I'm leaving as a lord with everything he needs to build. Kangland Domain's second phase starts now. The night before leaving, I stood at the window of my guest room, staring north toward Kangland Domain. In my hand, I was rubbing a smooth black jade charm, Mom's parting gift. The Frost Moon amulet, packed with defensive magic and a trace of her personal magical signature. Basically a panic button that says, my mother is a half-step Magus Lord and she will find you. Mom's man. Even in fantasy worlds. A knock at the door. Lane. Helmetless for once, showing a young face that had aged about 5 years in the last month from sheer combat exposure. Everything's ready, my lord. Supplies loaded, horses rested. Martin reports the 5,000 settlers arrived safely, being processed, all orderly. Good. I kept looking north. Then asked something I probably shouldn't have. Lane, do you think we've done enough? Does what we've built actually mean anything here? Lane went quiet. Thinking. Then, my lord, we killed gold rank bosses, cleared our territory, built a functioning military, and came home with elite administrators and 6 months of grain. The Flying Tiger Knight Order is incomparably stronger than when we left. In Snow Wolf Territory's eyes, Kangland Domain isn't some hopeless frontier experiment anymore. It's a blade. A sharp one. A blade with its edge barely showing. I murmured. I turned around, looked at Lane, then looked toward the deepest part of the castle, where the magical barriers were thickest, where the air itself got heavier, where the Hall of Ancestors waited like a sleeping dragon. Lane followed my gaze. His brow twitched. Just barely. But I caught it. You're going back to see him, he said. Not a question. Yes. Lane had felt grandfather's aura during our last visit. He'd stood outside that meteorite iron door, and even through solid walls, that pressure had pressed down on a gold-rank knight like gravity had tripled. He knew exactly what I was walking into. Some mountains have to be climbed, I said, squeezing Mom's amulet. Cool jade against warm skin. Some gazes have to be met. Lane didn't argue. Didn't ask why. Just straightened up, fist to chest plate. Boom. And said, I'll escort you, my lord. That's the thing about Lane. He doesn't waste time questioning decisions he can't change. He just makes sure he's standing next to you when the hard part comes. We walked. Same long corridor as before. Same portraits of dead Windsor legends staring down from the walls. Same gradually increasing pressure, making my black iron aura seed curl into a ball and whimper. Lane walked behind me, and I could feel even his aura tightening. A gold rank knight, someone who could solo an orc army, physically tensing up from ambient residual energy leaking through walls. That's the scale we're dealing with. The two Snow Wolf Imperial guards at the meteorite door were exactly as I remembered. Dark gold runic armor, auras like staring into a black hole, faces like they'd been carved from the same stone as the walls. Their eyes swept over me. Routine, then lingered on Lane for a beat. Last time, Lane had been strong. This time, after weeks of warfare and dozens of kills, his aura was noticeably denser, sharper. The guards noticed. In their world of assessing threats, even a small change registers. But, noticeably sharper gold rank is still a firefly next to the sun that lives behind that door. They let us pass. The door opened silently. Ancient air rolled out. And the pressure, the pressure, slammed into us like walking into a waterfall made of history and killing intent. Last time I came here nervous and curious. This time I came with purpose. I had results to show. Territory secured. Enemies killed. Army built. Breakthrough achieved. Administrative crisis solved. Population doubled. But standing at the threshold of that vast, dark hall, watching the dim blue crystal light play across dozens of legendary weapons on their rack, feeling my soul compress under the weight of an epic peak knight's mere existence. All my accomplishments felt very, very small again. Somewhere in that darkness, my grandfather was waiting. The man who called gold rank enemies insignificant pests. The man whose silence carried more weight than most people's screams. The man who told me, "Don't die too early," like he was commenting on the weather. I took a breath, squeezed the jade amulet one more time, and walked in. Because here's what I've learned in 1 month of being a frontier lord. Comfort zones are where ambition goes to die. The only way to grow is to stand in front of things that terrify you and refuse to look away. Grandfather is the most terrifying thing I've ever encountered. Which means he's exactly what I need. The door opened. The ancient abyss air hit us. Round 2 with grandfather. Lane stepped in behind me and immediately almost collapsed. His entire body locked up. His gold rank aura, the same aura that makes entire monster armies run screaming, started shaking like a leaf in a tornado. Sweat erupted across his face. His jaw clenched so hard I could hear his teeth grinding. A gold peak knight, struggling to stand. Just from being in the same room as my grandfather. Not even targeted pressure, just the man's passive existence leaking out like radiation from a magical nuclear reactor. I was doing better than last time, honestly. Mom's jade amulet was pulsing cool energy against my palm, stabilizing my black iron seed. Still felt like trying to breathe underwater, but at least my legs worked. Grandfather turned around. Those impossible eyes, like looking into the death of stars, scanned me first, then slid past to Lane. "Gold rank peak," grandfather said, his voice rumbling through Lane's soul like tectonic plates shifting. "Foundation is acceptably solid. You honor me, sir." Lane managed to squeeze out while every atom in his body was screaming for mercy. Then grandfather did something unexpected. He chuckled. A low, unreadable sound that could have meant anything from amusement to a death sentence. "I don't know why you serve my grandson. I don't care where you came from." His gaze pinned Lane like a butterfly on a board. "As long as you're loyal to my blood, to this wolf pup who's wandered out of the den, your past is irrelevant." Then the temperature dropped to absolute zero. But the pressure spiked. Not gradually, instantly. Like someone dropped a mountain on Lane's shoulders. He crashed to his knees on the black obsidian floor. Thud. Sweat pouring off him like rain. His bones audibly groaning. His gold rank aura flickering like a dying light bulb. "If I ever learn you harbor even half a thought of betrayal against this family or this wolf pup," grandfather leaned forward. Those ancient eyes suddenly held the reflection of 1,000 shattered battlefields and a millennium of slaughter. A killing intent so dense it had weight poured out of him. The concentrated murderous legacy of the entire Windsor bloodline. The Snow Wolf's fangs have already torn apart countless fools who overestimated themselves. Their screams still echo in the northern wind. "You would not want to be the next, would you?" I watched Lane, My strongest warrior, my gold-rank commander who deletes orc chieftains in 15 seconds. Kneeling on the floor, drenched in sweat, 1 inch from passing out, being threatened by a man who could erase him from existence with a thought. Grandfather, I stepped forward, physically putting myself between the pressure wave and Lane. My voice came out sharper than I intended, but absolutely steady. Lane and his knights are my most trusted arms. They've proven themselves in blood. Please, trust your grandson's judgment. Grandfather's eyes shifted to me. That frozen gaze wavered, just a flicker, barely perceptible. Then the pressure vanished. Gone. Like it never existed. Humph. He straightened up, completely ignoring the half-dead knight gasping on his floor, and strolled over to a chair carved from a single block of ice jade. Sat down. Almost. Lazily. Like a retired lion settling onto a warm rock. Except this lion could kill everything in a 50-mile radius if he sneezed wrong. Since your great-uncle led the Frostfang Knight Order west to establish the Frost Wolf Earldom, Grandfather began, his tone shifting to something almost storytelling. The Snow Wolf family hasn't seen a young wolf venture out on their own in 100 years. He looked at me with eyes that held centuries. The Windsor family history was written by pioneers. Since our ancestor built the first stronghold in a blizzard, 7 family members have walked the path of frontier expansion. 1 died in the wilderness. 1 came back broken. The 5 who succeeded? 1 became a viscount. The other 4, all earls. His voice sharpened to a blade's edge. Our glory was never built by hiding behind inherited walls. It was built by pushing outward, like wolves, cooperating, hunting together. Internally, we may argue, we may compete, but claws and fangs never touch the pack's own bones. Then his voice became something ancient and terrible. But if any outsider dares covet what's ours, or harms even one of our blood, the Snow Wolf response comes like an Arctic blizzard. Unstoppable, unforgiving. Until the enemy understands the price in bone and blood. Grandpa looked back at me. Still sharp, still piercing, but now with something underneath. Not warmth exactly, but acknowledgement. You, Ron Windsor, lit the first signal fire on frozen ground in 1 month. You proved this was an impulse. You have some measure of a pioneer's potential. Then he dropped the real payload. Therefore, your second grandfather and I have decided to grant you formal family support. My heart stopped. First, 1 finger raised. The family will station an Earth Knight permanently in Kangland Domain. Your guardian. The family's representative. Experienced, loyal, capable of holding your rear and deterring any threat. An Earth Knight. Tier 6. 1 full tier above gold. The kind of warrior who can reshape battlefields single-handedly. Assigned to me. Permanently. Second finger. Once you've established sufficient infrastructure, towns, farmland, capacity, the family will begin organized, continuous migration of settlers from Snow Wolf territory to your domain. The first wave, no fewer than 2,000 households. 2,000 households. At 4 to 5 people per household, that's 8 to 10,000 additional citizens. A massive population injection that would nearly double my territory's workforce. Grandfather saw the barely contained fireworks going off behind my eyes and added with characteristic deadpan. Compared to your great-uncle, who marched west as a sky knight with 1,000 elite Frostfang knights. This support is admittedly modest. Thanks, Grandpa. Way to keep a guy humble. But understand, Ron, your great-uncle was already an eagle soaring above the clouds. You are a wolf pup who just left the den with baby teeth. What you're receiving is the maximum the family can justify based on what you've shown so far. Translation: prove more, get more. This is an investment, not a gift. Returns expected. I understand completely, Grandfather. I bowed deep enough to see my own boots. I will not disappoint you or the family, and I meant it, because I understood the math perfectly. To upgrade from a barony to a viscountcy in this world, you need at minimum 1 Earth Knight, 5 Gold Knights, and 100 Bronze Rank Riders. I already had the Gold Knights. The Bronze Cavalry was growing, and now Grandfather was handing me the Earth Knight, the single most expensive, hardest to obtain piece of the puzzle. That one chess piece changed everything. An Earth Knight doesn't just fight, they anchor a territory. Their presence alone makes neighboring powers think twice. It's the difference between scrappy frontier outpost and legitimate rising power. Lane was still on his knees behind me, slowly regaining the ability to breathe. I'd apologize to him later. Maybe buy him a drink. Or 10. But right now, walking out of that hall with grandfather's promise ringing in my ears, I felt something shift in my chest. Not just excitement. Not just gratitude. Purpose. 7 Windsors walked the pioneer's path. 5 succeeded. 2 failed. I will not be number 3.